And
Cool,
we are
man.
live, man. What up? We'll let some people get in here first, man. And it's 10 o'clock there now, man. Where are the kids?
10 p.m. right now. Well, they're watching TV. They're not far from me. Their mother is upstairs.
So so now with this this COVID, do you just let them stay up as long as they want to stay up, or do you keep them on a schedule?
Man, they do whatever they want, man. They've been doing it anyway. So it's crazy, bro. It's like a movie, you know. It's like a bad movie.
But you know,
and
here's the crazy thing, Dave. Is like it's everywhere. You know what I mean? It's not just like it's in LA or in the United States. This is happening all over the world, man.
Yeah, man.
Now I can't make jokes anymore. You know, be like, man, y'all got coronavirus in Africa? Y'all got McDonald's in
Africa? Wait, I'm still trying to share. Hold on. So do I go to my page or your page?
Go to my page, Ruben Paul Comedy, and you'll see.
Yeah.
And it'll be on there, and then you can share it. I'm about to do it right now. So hold on. Oh man, where is it? It should be up there. Oh, there it is, and I just shared it. So man, how's the weather out there right now in South Africa, in Joburg?
It's been warm, you know, but generally it starts to get cold a bit in April, because I know my birthday, which is in 2 days' time, it's always starts to kind of get a little bit cold, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So for now we got the sun a bit blazing hot during the day, and but now it's like the weather doesn't even matter, man. Nobody's going anywhere.
I know, dude, because here's the crazy part. It's like LA, the weather is fantastic today. And whenever you look out the window and you see the sunshine, it makes you want to go out even more. And it's like, damn, I need to stay put. So that's what I've been trying to do. That's definitely what I've been trying to do. It's fantastic today. And whenever you look
it's crazy, man. It's for me, it's literally like I used to say it's like a movie where I die first, because the first thing that happened was all gigs were canceled, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, damn, man, this is it. You know, I mean, my Black Song for the year would have been 4th April, the first big show for the year.
Where were you going to do it? Where were you going to do
Empress Palace.
Oh, the Empress Palace.
Empress Palace. About 3,500 people or so.
Yeah, man.
So you know, we try to get people not to take their money back. You know, maybe leave it for the next date. Maybe people will call me and be like, "Hey, man, I need to go stock up on some groceries and shit. I need my money."
Man,
people are like, "Yo, man, I need my money back. I've gotta go buy food." You know,
they want refunds.
Yeah, so you know, a lot of people went to get their refunds, and
you remember Wolf, Russell's friend Wolf?
You remember? Oh yeah, he works in the production.
No. Little guy was with us in Vegas. He just said hello. We call him the Wolf.
Ah.
You remember Wolf when you see him. Anyway, he just chimed in and said hello. What up, Mark?
What up?
Slowly starting to chime in, man. I got some surprises. I got some surprise guests that's gonna pop in and say hello to you, man. So we'll have a good time today, man. So Dave, when did the shutdown start for you guys in South Africa? What was the date?
So how about this, right? Today is day 21, and our shutdown was originally 21 days.
Mm-hmm.
But a week ago, the president.
What did the president do?
He added 2 more weeks on the 21 days. So tomorrow we start the extra 2 weeks. Okay. But it would have ended. So until a week ago, it was ending today. How's that?
Well, I mean, they did the same thing to us here. Originally, the cutoff dates changed. It was supposed to be to the end of March, and then it was supposed to be to April 15th. And now it's going to go through minimum May 15th here. So maybe in a couple of weeks, they'll extend it even further. Who knows? So that's, I think, because here's the thing, dude, you know, it's just, they're making decisions as they go along. They have no idea. They can't, nothing is definitive. You know what I mean? Jamie just said in Canada, they have them for another month. That's just like us. They have us for another month. And then Mark said, that's not bad. Here, you could actually see some of these. He said, that's not bad. We are day 30, and they added 28 more days in Toronto. Wow. Yeah.
28.
Yeah, dude. It's serious out here, bro. It's serious.
28.
Yeah.
I just read in London, they've just added 3 more weeks, well, in the UK.
Yeah. Well, you know how black people are. How were people taking it in South Africa when they first heard about it? Did they think it was bullshit when they first heard about it?
So obviously we all believe black people don't get it.
Even in South Africa, huh?
we all believe that black people are not gonna get it. Black people don't get it. And then I saw a video of Idris Elba, right? Getting it. you know when you start thinking, fuck, who's steering? That's the steering from the movies, but he's got
so
like,
soon as black
that guy
soon as black people saw Idris Elba, they're like, this shit is real.
So, and then Ndaba, you know Ndaba Mandela?
Yes.
It's Nelson Mandela's grandchild. Yeah, I mean, you've met him a couple of times with Russell. So Ndaba had it.
Oh, he did?
Ndaba had it. Yeah, and he had to quarantine for like the 2 weeks and then came out last week and said he doesn't have it anymore. But he had it for like 2 weeks or so.
Wow.
So, and for me, for me, the scariest thing has been the fact that African Americans are the ones that are mostly dying from it. For me, that's freaking me out, you know? And it's like, even Puff Daddy, you know.
Wait a minute, David, wait a minute. So it's the same in South Africa where predominantly black people, well, shit, it's a majority of black people in South Africa too, so that's not.
No, so here where the conspiracy theories are in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not releasing any statistics. And the trend with the media normally is if black people do something or get something, they put out their names and their identity. Mm-hmm. If shit happens to white people, they don't say anything. They keep them anonymous, right? So far in South Africa, there was a time they maybe wrote off 1 or 2 black people have it, but now what's happening, a lot of nurses and doctors are getting it. A lot of hospitals are closing down. It's like 15 staff members got it 2 days ago in Morningside in a Sandton clinic and private hospitals, that is. So the statistics, you can still tell it's mostly the influential and the higher LSM areas where they have it.
Mm-hmm.
But in the townships, people are doing very minimal social distancing. I don't know if you've seen pictures or videos of South African soldiers that are like kicking people's ass, making people exercise when they catch them in the street. So there's been all this like dumb videos of
Dave? Dave?
yeah.
No,
You froze for a little bit, man.
No, Mark's trying to wake up and now she's visiting. Yeah.
Hey, what's up? You're in that.
Are you there? Are you there?
A lot of people.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me, David? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah. So there's like a lot of the circumstances in South Africa, right? So take for instance, social distancing. You have to stay home. But there's people already, they live like 7 people in one shack or in like one room.
Mm.
And they can't be stuck with each other realistically 24 hours a day. And then you'd still find in one of the townships where there's like maybe 4 or 5 shacks in one yard. And each shack still has like 4 or 5, 6 people. So the people are just lingering and hanging out and chilling in their, in their yards. And some don't have a choice. They have to walk to a mall where they're in a group. They have to go and get their government grants. It's like we're still going to see some shit going up in flames here. Is my picture bad?
It just freezes a little bit. Some of your people are talking shit.
Yeah.
That's Gerard. What up, G? You remember Gerard? Gerard's, look, you freezing again, David. Gerard is who we interviewed you together one time before. One of my closest friends in comedy. Very, very, very funny dude. Gerard, I already sent it to you, to your email. It's already been sent. So yeah, man. He buy some more data, David. We have a little bit of technical difficulties with South Africa's own David Cow. For you guys who don't know David, very, very, very funny dude. Everybody's killing you, David. David, you make too much money not to be having no data, man. The hell. But yeah, I met David. We'll talk about it more when he finally unfreezes. But I met David. I can't even remember how long ago. But I met him when I was on tour with Russell Peters, and we just hit it off. And I've been back a few times to do the Blacks Only shows in South Africa. Well, until we get David back in the mix, hopefully he should come in soon. I'm going to introduce you guys to another very, very funny comedian out here in America, writer, producer, comedian extraordinaire. One of my good friends, somebody I respect a lot in this comedy game, the one and only Mr. Gerard Guillory.
What's going on, man? What's up, world? How are you doing? What's up, Rube?
Man, we can't call it. David is literally frozen in time right now. All my South African peeps are killing him. Oh, David is back. David is back. Here he is. Wait, okay. I gotta hold on. Let me boot him and then re-add him. Dave, your people been killing you, man.
Man, this is bad. This is terrible, man.
They've been killing you. They say you need to buy some more data, David.
I canceled this service yesterday because it's gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. And I was on an ADSL line, and they keep stealing cables as they do in South Africa. So the service provider is not replacing cables anymore. So I have to change subscribers altogether. But obviously, we're in the middle of lockdown. So, but I gave them a notice yesterday. So now I'm using my phone. And I'm using my own normal everyday data that I have on my phone, not my uncapped Wi-Fi at all.
David, can you see the question that's on the screen that was just asked? That's up to David.
Hey, man, it's going to be months before we do any live shows, brother.
But you know, there's some people, well, see, the shows that you do, for you guys don't know, David Cow does shows that are a lot of times that are over 3,000. Like, what's your normal capacity? 3,000, 35?
Yeah, so 3,000, 3.5. I mean, the last time you were here, that was like once off. That was about 10,000 people.
Yeah, that was at
but the usual is like, it's like 2,000, 3,500.
You know,
3 shows a year.
I actually have a.
What up, Jared?
What's up? What's up, Dad? I was gonna ask, how you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. Let me ask you real quick.
Yeah.
I'm not real good at math, but I think in the realm of Pythagorean theorem, A plus B equals C squared all day long. If your average is 3,000, but when Ruben came, you had 10. Are you trying to let Ruben's audience know that 7,000?
I mean, good question, Gerard.
So we had Ruben and 7,000 more people showed up.
Yeah, randomly.
That was a show for everybody. That was the flyer of the show.
Yeah, and I was turning 40, man. I turned 40 that year, and Black Songly had been going on for 14 years that year. So it's been on for 16 years now. We're going for 17th year.
And G, here's a partial shot of the dome because I was backstage and I couldn't get a full shot, but that's just a little bit of the 10,000 people we got a chance to play in front of, man, and it was awesome. We also did shows in Cape Town, which is dope. Yeah. But my favorite photo from the event has to be that photo. That to be that photo, baby. That to be that photo right there.
The title alone, the title of the show alone is worth 7,000.
Come on, hey, but trip this, guys, and it's just so funny because when I posted, this shows you how small-minded people are and how they don't know their history. And I'm sure you dealt with this a lot, David. I posted a flyer, and some white dude chimed in and said, "That's racist." And then I was nice enough to explain to him the concept behind the show, and he still didn't get it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to waste my time trying to explain anything to you. Those are the same people that go, why do black people have black award shows? That's racist. Well, we have to have award shows because you don't include us in your award shows, and your award shows are white award shows, but you just don't say that they are.
Right.
That's what I used to tell people, that all the shows I used to be in were all white or whites only, but they were just not called whites only. So remember, the last part of my career, I used to be the only black person. I'd been the only black person in like a 3,000, 4,000 seater venue, and that was the first show I did when I moved to Joburg, when I first met Roddy. So my first show ever in Johannesburg was about 4,000 with two black people in like a 3,600 seater venue. And the two black people I had met earlier at an arts festival, and I asked them to come to my show and told them I'm moving to Joburg, right?
Where were you?
That went on.
David, where were you living at the time before you moved to Joburg?
Oh, I lived in Cape Town for about 2 years because I studied at the University of Cape Town.
That's right.
And then I started doing stand-up in Cape Town for about 2 years. And then I moved to Joburg 10 years ago now.
Bob Sumner. What up, Bob?
Big Bob.
What up, Bob?
How you doing, Bob?
Man.
How you doing, Bob?
Love for Bob Sumner. One because he put me on Def Comedy Jam, but this might even go higher than that, Bob. You a Raider fan, boy, so I got love for Bob Sumner. Me and Lionel B, we always bring up Bob and different Raider fans from all around the world. But David, I kind of want to back up because, obviously a lot of people in South Africa know your story, but not a lot of people in America know your story. Tell us, because what a lot of people don't realize, you were arguably the first Black comedian in South Africa coming out of apartheid, correct?
So between myself and Kagiso Ledigga, so Kagiso and I were studying drama at the University of Cape Town. And then one of our classmates by then, who thought we were funny or whatever, there's all these societies that you join when you get to varsity, some are sports, some are debates and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And she booked us for one, and she just said me and Kagiso was pretty much, those, come on, can you guys be funny or make us laugh? So I always tell people we started stand up on the same desk in a lecture hall at the University of Cape Town, because that's where we were performing, right?
No.
But we didn't call ourselves stand-up comics. We didn't know we were doing stand-up comedy.
Now, David, were you familiar with stand-up comedy before you actually did it? Had you watched comedy on TV? Did you? Of course, you had to know Eddie Murphy and Bill Cosby prior, right? So
all we knew was the Eddie Murphy Delirious tape. For some reason, that went all over the world. With a red leather suit. But the first stand-up comedy show, I was in was the first stand-up comedy show I'd ever been to, when I was already on stage.
What? Wait.
I never told you that.
Wait.
I never told you that?
No, say that again. So the first show, the first show you ever been to.
The first stand-up comedy show I ever went to was my own show, or was a show that I was in. So before that, I had never, ever been to a stand-up comedy show.
How did you prepare?
I was studying drama, and I had to write my own one-man show to graduate in my third year, right? And the show was fun, but I wasn't writing a stand-up comedy routine. I was just doing I have to do a one-man show because I won't graduate if I don't. Mm-hmm. But based on that, Sam Hendricks booked me for a stand-up comedy festival. And then I started doing like 10, 15 minutes from that show. So I would wait for the audience to finish laughing, and then I'd carry on where I left. And then over time, I started going back, listening to the audience, kind of talking back. So essentially, I was booked for a stand-up comedy festival where I met Russell, right? The Smirnoff International Comedy Festival. But I wasn't going there to do stand-up. I was just going there to perform because I was booked and the guys thought I was funny.
What year was this?
And then,
what year was this?
October 1998.
So October 1998, were you
10 years old?
Yeah, we won't put your age out there. But Dave, at that time, and Gerard, you can jump in after I ask him this question, because I know you got some questions also. At this time, stand-up comedy, you were in Cape Town, but to your knowledge, stand-up comedy wasn't being done by Black people anywhere in South Africa, because this was just on the tail end of apartheid, correct?
Yeah. So between myself and anyone standing in front of an audience doing stand-up comedy, remember there were not even comedy clubs, and there still isn't. There's maybe 2 or 3 at the moment, right?
In the entire country?
So there might have been So there might have been the drunk uncles at weddings that people thought were funny, but no one was being paid by money or people.
Oh
man!
But because of South Africa, right? Mark Lottering in South Africa is colored. So if he wasn't calling himself Black, then I couldn't say there were other Black comedians. But we're starting out the same year. So in South Africa, there are different races. There's colored people, Indian people, Black people, and white people, right? Some colored people call themselves Black or classify or prefer to be called Black, and some don't. They just want to be called colored or classified colored.
Mm.
So there's like an old guy, Billy Prince, who's now late, who was like a legend. You know, he was famous for, Nelson Mandela even said to him, he does a Nelson Mandela impersonation better than Nelson Mandela. And Nelson Mandela said that to him. But he was colored, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he never called himself black, but technically he was, you know, white people, I guess, called him colored as well, because that was a classification in South Africa. But for black people in South Africa to say there's a black comedian, that was once I was on the Fat Joe show, maybe a year or two later, I started doing a lot of interviews. And Kagiso was a lot more into television. So when I was running along with the stand-up gigs, that's when we were putting together the Pure Monarchy shows and writing all these movies and TV shows that later on he pretty much became the producer and I was the lead in the thing. Or he was the director and I was the actor or the comedian and the name that we're trying to use to kind of raise money for the project. So, but me and him, I always say to people, because people try to compare comedians, right? Or the people would compare me to Trevor Noah, and I say to them, even if you wanted to, if you really needed to in your life, the only person you can compare me to is Kagiso, because we literally started stand-up on the same desk, on the same day, at the same time.
Yeah, what a lot of people don't realize is you gave Trevor Noah his break doing stand-up in South Africa.
Look, I mean, Trevor obviously at some stage ended up on Black Songly Comedy Show. He opened for me when I was doing my first one-man show. I did these jokes first, and that was my first DVD. Probably even maybe the second DVD ever in the country, like a stand-up comedy DVD. I think Barry Hilton at the time might have had, or there might have been maybe one other comedian with a DVD.
Oh wow!
So this was maybe 13 years ago.
Gerard, go ahead.
So
I just wanted to ask David. So I know Trevor was on Blacks Only. Does he refer to himself as black or colored?
In South Africa, because he's half Xhosa, so he was classifying himself as black.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you know, my wife's dad is Greek, her mother is Zulu, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's people that think she's colored or assume that she's colored,
right?
But she's half Greek. She's not South African colored, right? So it's up to her if she's half Greek or half Zulu. So the dad is Greek. She's light skinned. She's lighter than her mother. Her mom is like pitch black. So some people would pretty much have a choice of choosing whether you're gonna be half Greek, or you're gonna, you know, go to a black school, live in a black neighborhood, classify yourself as half black.
Can you do me a favor for the American audience who may or might know? Can you break down the classifications in South Africa between? I mean, obviously we know the difference between black, white, colored. What that really means, because I think a lot of people don't realize that. You know, that was the joke that I did when I was in South Africa. I go, I've been black my whole life, and then I come to South Africa and find out that I'm colored. You know, that was like one of the first jokes and that shit killed. It killed, you know, when it was out there.
Yeah.
It wasn't until you and Russell kind of explained that to me. So explain that to the audience, please.
So yeah, so it was pretty much light-skinned black people, who most of them was because naturally it's either you had a black mother or a white father, right? Mm-hmm. So historically, when you go back into apartheid and the white folks arriving on their yachts back in the 1800s and the early 1900s, some of them were kind of kicking it on the side with black women, especially in the Western Cape when they came that way. Right?
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
This is where the kind of mixed race kind of came from. And then there's this tribe of people that people always say they were the first people on South African land, and who were also kind of classified as colored. But essentially, it became, you had black people who were at the bottom of the food chain, or the worst treated, who lived in a separate neighborhood, separate schools, separate type jobs. Then the colored people kind of came above them, and then the Indian people, and then the white people. So throughout apartheid, the apartheid government basically set it up so that the Indian people believe they're better than Indian people and black people, and the colored people are better than the black people, and obviously the white people, put in a system that kind of made them better than everyone else.
Everybody else. It was like here.
So everywhere you went, for your ID, going to school, going to work, all the forms would have, are you black, white, Indian, or colored? There'll be like 4 squares, and you needed to tick one. And that only stopped a few years after 1994, after Nelson Mandela became the president and all that. So race has always been a factor. And obviously there's people that say I'm racist because I do a show called Black Songly. And for me, the whole point was for black comedians to have a career and to have a platform and perform in whatever languages they wanted to. So the funny thing now is my wife is half Greek, half Zulu. I'm South Soto, and I always say my kids, I think, are Muslim or something because I don't know what race they are. So you've got now this whole setup now where actually race is becoming, to some extent, it almost doesn't matter, but it still does, right? So my kids are going to school with white kids, Indian kids, colored kids, but their mother is, my wife is from Swaziland, because the father and mother would have been arrested if they stayed in South Africa. And in Swaziland, most people are mixed and light-skinned, but they speak Swati. So they don't regard themselves as colored, because that was never a classification in Swaziland, right? Mm-hmm. They're just people. So my wife was bringing up our kids in that your classmates or your friends are exactly who they are. Tom is Tom and Camilla is Camilla, Natasha is Natasha. They're not black, or you don't have black friends or white friends, or David. So now we're trying to bring them up in that.
Yeah.
And then the reality is, when my wife moved to South Africa after apartheid kind of was ending, then people were calling her the K word, the equivalent of the N word, and she didn't even know what it meant. That was a South African.
What the hell is the K word?
The K word.
Kaffir. It's pronounced Kaffir. So it's spelled Kaffir.
And that's equivalent to nigger?
To nigger, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that's what white people, Afrikaans people used to call black people, right? Mm-hmm. So when my wife was after high school or coming to South Africa, back to South Africa, when her parents were allowed to be back in South Africa in a mixed relationship, her South African classmates or white ones would call her the K word, and she didn't even know what it meant.
She had no idea what it meant. Yeah.
Because to her, it actually never mattered that her dad was Greek, her mom was black. When she would be driving around with her mom in Nelspruit, where she lived in South Africa, people thought her mom was her maid or her domestic wife. Because my wife was light and her mom was pitch black.
Yeah.
So race has always had this thing in South Africa, which is then when we started out, we did all the jokes of black people do this, white people do that, colored people do this. Or when the colored guys started getting into stand-up comedy, then they had their colored people do this, white people do this. And it was natural, because that was our lives from, when we were starting out in 1998, in the 2000s.
Well, the thing that surprised me when I came to South Africa, because, especially a lot of early black comedy in America. I hate to even use the term black comedy, but when when in the urban comedy scene, a staple of a lot of black comedians act was white people do this, black people do that, white people do this, black people do that, and then the Mexican comedians who came up were doing Mexican people do this, white people do that. So when I came to South Africa and then heard you guys going, white people do this, white people do this, black people do this, colors do this, Indians do this. I was like, God damn.
And Papas do it like this.
Yeah, you guys cover the whole country. Like, when is this fucking joke gonna be over?
So let me tell you. Okay, let me make you laugh for a sec, right? So remember, so Gerard, with the black people in South Africa, right? There's 9 different ethnic groups. So I'm South Sudan.
Yeah.
So yeah, within the blacks, within the African, there's 9 ethnic groups, right? There's Venda people, Otsonga people, there's Pedi people, there's Xhosa people, Zulu people, I'm South Sotho, there's North Sotho, Tswana people. So now when you get on stage, because one of the things Black Songly did was anybody could perform in any language, right? Ndebele, if you wanted, Zulu if you wanted. I mean, you've kicked it with Celeste, who's like kills and kills.
I love.
Kumba is selling out his own.
If you guys want to know who Celeste is, that's my girl right there.
There's Celeste, man.
That's my girl. That's my girl.
So,
she is hilarious.
So here's the joke. Now when you go to comedy clubs, right? You're gonna get petty guys doing Zulu guys do this and petty guys do this. Or like South Sotho guys do this.
That's so funny. Is it the same thing?
So now you got
like this. Well,
so you need 9 punchlines when you go there. You're gonna need 9 punchlines.
Yeah, fantastic. That is crazy. I'm tripping on how much of what you're saying about South Africa is so very similar, right? Just like Ruben said, we had that here. Every new group of comedy. Remember, at one point we had the Kings of Comedy. Then they did the Latin Kings of Comedy. Then they did the Kims of Comedy, which was the Asians.
The women,
The only
the
the ones who changed it was the Middle Eastern comics, and I forget what they said, like the terrorists, comedy terrorists.
Axis of Evil. Axis of Evil.
There you go. Yeah, I want to make sure it didn't look like I was.
Shout out Maz Jobrani, Ahmed.
Yeah, some really funny dudes, but how everybody sectioned off.
And then you had the white collar tour.
Yes. Blue collar.
The blue collar tour.
Yeah,
which was the white Kings of Comedy.
Yeah,
every different group. So what you're saying is so very similar. But I was thinking about this when you were saying about your wife and the kids. You say, okay, well, Tom is Tom and Billy is Billy and Carol is Carol, but here Natasha is blacker than a motherfucker.
The funny thing was, because my wife was, that's what my wife was teaching them. There was one or two occasions where they came to my shows, right? And obviously, there's the biggest logo that says Black.
David, tell the truth. The logo could have been this big. It says Blacks Only. It reads like it's on the side.
Let me tell you the for me the best thing, But if you think about it and you think of South Africa, an opportunity and the reality of South Africa, right? If it wasn't for Roddy Quinn, who's a white man and a white manager who paid for Blacks Only for years and years until it started making any money, there wouldn't be a Blacks Only.
Right.
So my career would have totally taken a different direction.
Yeah.
But it took another white promoter or white man to put his own money and believe in whatever shit I was trying to do, in trying to convince people that I want to tell jokes to black people. Concerts, the Free Mandela concerts in the 80s in London. And so it wasn't like a thing for him. But for me, it actually shows you the reality of South Africa. So you got a lot of black businesses that for them to take off, they needed white people to put their money in them, or it was white people that believed in putting the money in the black business that some people were trying to do,
Again, my thought is
and that's still,
I'm sorry to cut you, but I think that's true everywhere. My thought is, and not so much about white people, but about people outside of the group that's trying to be advanced. If it's LGBT, they got straight people there to help push the thing. Mm-hmm. If it's a feminist group, there are men there to help push it. If it's a black agenda, there's somebody from outside of the group that has to be there to help push it forward, which again makes us all one thing.
Yeah,
so
but because I think it goes to the hierarchy or the people that are in control. If you're an oppressed group, you need somebody who is not oppressed to come help the oppressed group. You know what I mean?
Compress the line. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, this could be from the outside of it, but also suggest about how humanity, because that's what I'm really tripping on, about how actually, you know, the technology makes it seem like we're all in the same space, but you're on another continent telling, certainly for me, I'm sure many people in the audience are hearing stuff for the first time, but it sounds like right down the street. You know what I mean? So very similar to our experiences here too.
So I don't know what it's like in terms of race relations since the coronavirus, right? So South Africa goes through all these phases where literally everybody falls in love with everybody. White people love black people love black people, Zulu people love Xhosa people, and colored people love. But so that came in like the Nelson Mandela times, and then the World Cup in 2010. So now we won the Rugby World Cup last year, right?
Yeah.
We had a black captain, the first, I think, black captain for the rugby team, Siya Kolisi. And it was love all around. And then now with coronavirus, white people are going all over the place, putting together food packs. They're worried about people in the townships. They're worried about the people that work for them. You know, everybody is. But now you've got South Africa now back to, now all of a sudden everybody realizes we are all the same. You know, when this COVID-19 arrives, it's taking all of us.
Right.
Yeah. It doesn't matter whether you're a security guard or you're a millionaire or you live in a gated, high security, electric fence community.
Like where you live. Yo, I got somebody that wants to say hello to you, David. I got a surprise for you. Somebody wants to say hello to you, man.
Yo, Dave, what up, man?
No ways, man. Yo.
So, Gerard, what up, Room?
Ladies and gentlemen,
Dwayne Perkins.
Ladies and gentlemen, my brother, you know, and I got to introduce Gerard properly too, but ladies and gentlemen, my brother, again, another one of the funniest guys in the game. We've done countless shows together. He's somebody that I respect, that I'll brainstorm with on bits sometimes. There's only a handful of people I'll do that with. Ladies and gentlemen, Brooklyn's own, the one and only, the funny man, Mr. Dwayne Perkins. And also,
thank you.
Also, the very funny, like I gave a shout out early, but I want to make it official. Via Atlanta in Houston, one of the funniest guys with the mean pen game also. Talented comedian, man, very funny dude, Mr. Gerard Guillory. So
I've seen his name, man. I think I've seen
Ruben, real quick, if I can practice my Pythagorean theorem again. They remember A plus B equals C. Well, A is that Ruben has been to Blacks Only. B is that Dwayne Perkins was in the show, and C is that I'm the only member of this panel who's not been there. So
this automatically makes you the next international Blacks Only. Automatically,
right?
When Corona, as soon as airlines are open again for business,
right.
And
but let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a quick story about Dwayne, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, Ruben, before Blacks Only, right? For 4 years before Blacks Only, I did a show called Comedy Blackout. And the first ever show, guess who was the MC? Dwayne Perkins.
Before Blacks Only?
Before Blacks Only. I did a show called Comedy Blackout for 4 years. So 21 years ago, Dwayne was the first ever MC of Comedy Blackout, and Greer Barnes was the headlining act.
Whoa.
So
yeah. And he was in his full karate mode back then too. Yeah.
So, and scuba diving as well.
So,
right.
so Dwayne, real quick, tell me how you and David connected for you to even go over there to do those shows. For you guys are chiming in. We're talking to David Cal, South Africa's finest. We got Dwayne Perkins, we got Gerard Guillory, and myself, and we just bringing the world together. So Dwayne, tell us how you and David even met and hooked up.
Well, I met Dave at Montreal, but I'm not
Montreal Comedy Festival, correct?
Yeah, Montreal Comedy Festival.
Where was the first African comedian to go?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's big up. That's big up.
No,
absolutely.
That's a fact.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's a fact. I was the first black African comic to go there, right? And that was 21 years ago. I'd been doing comedy for like a year.
Yeah, but like you could tell, the fact that you were even there like speaks volumes, because like most people doing comedy for a year, they don't, hey, I'm just gonna go to the Montreal Comedy Festival. You know what I mean? That's bananas. But so me and Dave vibe, and there's a woman named Hannah. I think her name is Hannah Chambers from the UK, and I was trying to go to the UK, and she was like, "Oh, I got this thing in South Africa, but you have to compare." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to compare, but that means host." So she sent me. I thought Dave hooked it up, but I think this woman Hannah hooked it up, but I have no idea why or how.
So Hannah used to cook all the acts for Sam Hendrickson.
I see. The guy that looks like Kevin Bacon. This guy looks just like Kevin Bacon, I promise. Is that right?
Yo, so you guys met when Dave was hosting the show. Now I got a quick story piggybacking off of when David said one thing about the Blacks Only shows, he let anybody on the show speak their languages. So when David booked me, I had already been to South Africa with Russell Peters, and then David booked me to come back to do Blacks Only. So a couple days before I go do Blacks Only, I get a phone call from Dwayne. He's like, "Yo, man, I heard you going to South Africa." I go, "Yeah, man, I can wait." And Dwayne was like, "You gonna kill?" And then how he said it with a little question mark or soft food at the end. Said, "What do you mean I'm gonna kill?" He's like, "Yo, let me just warn you." He said, "Them South African comedians are monsters." And then I was like, "Yeah, whatever, nigga. I'm a monster. I'm coming from the US. I'm gonna go up there. I'm gonna bring it. I already been there. I know what it is." And Dwayne was like, "Yeah, you gonna kill, but let me just warn you, man." So I get to South Africa, and these motherfuckers are killing. First of all, David does an hour up top to warm up. He does an hour up top. There's 10 comedians on the show. And David starts the show with a fucking hour. So I'm backstage like, "Yo, Dwayne didn't tell me about this." Who warms up a show with an hour except D.L. Hughley and Earthquake?
Hilarious.
So I get to the show and they're killing. And the thing that I don't want to say it bothered me, but the only thing that made me nervous is because as a comedian, we use our instincts.
Right.
And I couldn't understand what the audience was laughing at because I couldn't understand the comedians. So David comes, I can't remember what comic he brought up. And David came out and I was like, "Dude, I can't understand anything." "Oh, you're going to be fine. You're going to fucking kill, man. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine." Then Skumba goes up. Now, let me tell you about Skumba. Skumba is my homie. He's funny as shit. Before he said a word, he got a standing ovation. And I had to go I had to go on after him. And it's like 3 hours into the show. Also, this is how bad it was. how nervous I was. I called Dwayne from South Africa back. I called Dwayne. I don't know what time it was in America, but I called Dwayne. I'm like, man, he's like, man, you're going to be fine, man. Just go up there. He's like, you're physical. You can be a little physical if you need to. You do act outs. That will help, out there. And then I'm trying to ask David what Skoomba is saying, but David is laughing his ass off. He's like, wait. He's talking about the guy with no legs right now. Hold on. I'm like, you asshole. I need to know what he's saying so I can piggyback off this shit. Long story short, he goes on. I have a good set. I have no ego. And I come up to David, and David, remember this. I go, yo, man, I know I'm the special guest from America, but I don't need to go on after all that shit. I mean, obviously, it was a home game for Skoomba and everybody. Gerard, what you got to say?
I wanted to ask one question to DP and then one to David, and that is for Dwayne, your first time going to South Africa. Yeah. You have to compare, you say it, to host?
Yes.
I wanted to know about that, but I want it to be answered inside of the question I have for David, and that is if every comedian can speak, and again, we're talking about between 3 and 10,000 people. If every comedian can speak his own language, does everybody in the audience understand all of those languages, or can you only understand the comedian from the region you're from? And then how does that affect a host who's coming over there for the first time?
So because South Africa is so mixed and some of the languages are slightly similar, but the comedians, their intelligence always tells them that I need to speak a certain way so that the majority of the audience can understand, especially Blacks Only. So Blacks Only is still largely 95, 98% in English, regardless of the acts that we put on, right?
Okay.
And then there's the slight, sayings here and there that we can't translate that maybe white people or colored people might miss or Indian people might miss. But if we now, let's say we take, because what I started doing shows in the townships, right, where Black people live. And one of the biggest was we did an annual show for Skoomba on his birthday in August. And literally people can walk to the venue, like a 800,000 seater.
Nice.
So Skoomba can full on go 98% speaking Zulu to that audience. Right. If I'm there, I'll do my Sotho, a bit of English. If Mdu from Ndebele or speaks Ndebele wants to do Ndebele, he'll just go in it. But because of the the LSM and the ticket price, that always kind of told you, I'm gonna do a lot more English. There I might do a bit less English. So, but the biggest growth in South African comedy is in the other languages. And I'm telling people, which I'll probably do, right? If any comedian does a stadium in South Africa, it's gonna be vernacular speaking, local South African language speaking comedians.
Wow.
Right.
It's not gonna be an English speaking comedian.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, I think
not if I have shit to do with it.
Right. I think there's some subtlety to like everyone's sure that helps. And what I find is like what you were saying, Ruben, is guys will lead you up to the punchline sometimes in English and then boom, hit you with the native language and you get the gist of it. But just by switching to their language, that just makes it like there's something richer about it. You know what I mean? The people feel it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Would it be the equivalent of going to any city in America on the road and instead of saying down the street, you use their street? When you call
right.
You say the things that we know are important to the people in Philadelphia or Tampa, Florida, or wherever.
Right. Exactly.
Now, Dwayne, and I could ask the reverse for David. I know for me, like I had done international stuff before, through China and Indonesia and places like that. It just gave me a lot more confidence, especially after I left South Africa, because I kind of feel like, okay, I'm the special guest. They're familiar with American culture enough for me to, not have to feel like I can't do my thing. But I just left there feeling like if I can make them laugh at this high of a level and I'm quote unquote an outsider and not a part of this,
Right.
it gave me more confidence coming back to America doing these shows, because I'm like, yo, I just played in front of 10,000 South Africans. I can give a damn, you know, like I'm not worried
Right.
to make you guys laugh, because I've just proven to myself that I have that skill set. And how did you feel after performing there, Dwayne?
Yeah, same. I don't know if you can hear me. Same way. You know, I think like us, when I came on and I saw these four faces, I was really excited, you know, because these are the people I like to speak to about comedy or anything, in fact. And what happens is you guys and maybe me a little, but can perform anywhere. And I think the thing is, there's so many people, especially now because of the internet, people have these niche markets, and they're guys who are held in super high regard, but they can play one audience or two different types of audiences. Yeah. And it's cool for them, but you know, we came up where you just had to sort of adapt to everything. Yeah. And then it's weird. There's like probably famous guys who would go to those South Africa shows and couldn't adapt because they never did the road. They never they never used put those tools in their box as a comic, you know? Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I found that all of that helps me, and it grounds me, and it also lets me know when I come back to LA that it's not a meritocracy. So don't worry about it. You know, just do your thing.
Yeah. And you know, and with Gerard, even though Gerard hasn't been there, you know, one thing about him is Gerard has a mastery of the English language. Like he's very verbal, and he uses words that paint pictures. And I would enjoy seeing him in front of that type of audience. Gerard, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, David is going to hook that up. This me being on this podcast. When I'm there.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Gerard.
I just want to say this. Though I have not done the South Africa, I do know what it's like to return to the United States, to Los Angeles, feeling greater about myself as a comedian, because I know what you guys are defining. Again, we're talking exclusive about South Africa, but I was in Rotterdam.
Yeah,
I was a comic up, but the host was speaking in Dutch, and the crowd is going crazy, and I can't get anyone to take my panic serious. I'm like, what are they saying? Everybody's like, no.
I'm not trying to, you know, downplay your Dutch experience, but Skumba, nigga, that was like going up after when Skumba went up, man. I was sitting up there going, what in the fuck did David get me into here?
What did I do to David?
Yeah, right. Because I mean, we all know we're all comics, and there ain't no ego involved in this, man. But it's just like, you know, when somebody walks out, your comic instincts kick in, and when somebody walks out to a standing ovation, you go, "Oh, they really know him and like him."
Right.
Yeah. But you see, this is the thing about Blacks Only. You know, maybe that goes back to when maybe Trevor Noah was on it years ago. So basically, any black comic that can do 5 to 10 minutes and kill on Blacks Only, their lives are literally never the same. So the gigs get bigger, the bookings get bigger, and also the corporate gigs, because the Blacks Only audience is quite a high LSM ticket buying audience. You know, from CEOs to billionaires to, you know, presidents' daughters would call me and be like, I'm coming to the show. Ministers would call me and be like, I'm coming to the show. So from there, then they start, you know, seeing all these other gigs that happen. So there's always like a feeling with a lot of young black comedians that until they've been on Blacks Only, they kind of haven't made it quite yet.
Yes.
So it's also become quite a war for me to let anyone or a new comic in, right? So there's guys I knew for 10 years that I'd never put on. There's guys that, you know, I knew for like 6 months, and I saw them do one gig, and I could tell this nigga is gonna get a standing ovation in like 5 minutes.
Right.
Right.
Or someone else equally would think they're killing in some club gigs, and I'll be like, Skumba, must I put this guy on stage? And Skumba will be like, no way, you know, it's gonna end their career if they mess up at that level.
Right. It's better to wait till you're ready. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I always talk about, and for me, Dwayne and Ruben Paul are the names that always come to my mind, right? Because I got to meet so many comedians and traveling, and I'm like, there's a lot of funny comedians in the United States that people don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Absolutely.
But they are funnier than most of the most famous comedians that a lot of people know.
Right.
And that's always how I book comedians. So most of the time, Blacks Only has more and more unknown comedians, right? People just buy the ticket and gamble. Then I might have a Skumba, a Nipo Pops, you know,
it's
a Celeste maybe to close the show.
Yeah,
but
it's like I'm sorry.
Then some guy that nobody has ever heard of goes on stage like, you know, Ruben says. You know, I would literally go on stage and be like, hey, welcome from Tembisa, welcome Ruben, and the audience does this. And then I'd go back on stage, pull him off, and redo the intro again and be like, guys, come on. It's this guy's first time. Please welcome him.
Right.
Yeah.
Gets the applause, goes back on stage. 5-10 minutes later, it's like a totally different story.
Oh, yeah.
Literally standing ovation, you know? And
Dwayne,
yeah.
Dwayne?
No, I was just gonna say David has built the brand. You know, there's a club in Scotland called The Stand, and like even Gotham Comedy Club in New York, Comedy Magic Club in LA, some comedy clubs and some comedy shows, the brand is so good that people just go. They don't need to know who's on the show. They know it's going to be good. And some comedy clubs got lazy and they focus on the name. So now they've shot themselves in the foot, because if they don't got a name, people don't come.
Yeah.
Where you're supposed to just have somebody funny every week, and then people keep coming back.
Trust.
Yeah.
Well, ultimately, like, that's the best way you want to build a brand. Like, that's one thing that I've tried to do with Ruby Tuesdays is because of I'm on the Sunset Strip in Hollywood. You know, the draw a lot of times is, well, let me get a big name on there. Let me get a George Lopez or a Russell Peters or a Chris Tucker or any of the guys that I've had do the show. But ultimately, it is to highlight these funny ass comedians that should, in my opinion, be household names. So you want to build the brand to a point where people come just because they know it's going to be a good show. And that's what David has created, where people see Blacks Only. They go, who's on the show? Oh, it don't matter. It's Blacks Only. It's always funny. You know, Chocolate Sundays do a great job with that also, where, you know, they don't even advertise who's going to be there. You just know, you know, as a Black person living in LA, you just know it's going to be Black and it's going to be funny.
Well, I wanted to add this real quick, because it sounds like with, you know, here before Def Comedy Jam for us, it would have been The Tonight Show, right? If you listen to those comics who came up in the eras before us, if you did The Tonight Show, your career was different. But if Johnny called you to the couch, you were a star in the morning.
Right.
To that your brand is this thing that authenticates the ascension.
Yes.
And I just wanted to do that because Ruben said I have a vocabulary. I want to drop that in.
hey guys, I gotta go to this. I write on this game show.
Okay.
So funny. We got a pitch meeting. It's called Funny You Should Ask, where every question has a funny answer. Anyway, it's trivia. I got to jump over to them and you know.
Hey man, thank you for coming in, man. We appreciate you coming in. Love you, boys. Stay safe. And if you finish, we might still be on as much as David talks.
All right, I'll let you know. Yeah, no doubt. All right, guys.
Thanks for joining us, man. So Gerard, right? Like I said, I met Dwayne like 21 years ago. My son keeps saying he wants to ask a question. This is my firstborn, right?
What's up, young man?
What up,
man? Keeps saying, he's asking me if you guys are in America, and he wants to ask a question.
Me and Dwayne, me and Gerard are both in America, man. How are you doing? What time is it there? You should be in bed, man.
Nothing.
Thank you.
What's your question? Quickly.
Does it even snow in spring, or does it only snow in winter?
Ask again. Ask again.
In spring, does it snow or is it only winter?
It depends on the region because it
In LA,
even Prince, the musical artist Prince, had a song called "Sometimes It Snows in April," and every now and again it's like that. Now we're in Los Angeles.
There's no winter.
Have you seen
It
Jake Paul?
always looks like summertime here.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Have you seen Jake Paul
Okay.
in a Lamborghini Huracan?
That's it. I was asking if you've seen some YouTuber.
I want to jump back to the Blacks Only and after they do the show, how their lives are changed. One thing that I think is dope about you, David, and again, it's something that I try to emulate, and I think is why we're close friends, because we have the same type of mindset, is giving people opportunities to change their lives. You know what I mean? To actually help somebody. Like when I see somebody who's dope, I don't get jealous. I want to help them. You know what I mean? Because I wish I would have gotten help or more help. Not saying that I haven't gotten any help, but that's one thing I've always respected about you, man, and how you, like, I'll ask you about him. It's like, yo, man, I found this dude here. He was performing for this, man, and I had to put him on Blacks Only. So just the fact that, you know, the South African comedians, the Black ones, are very lucky to have somebody like you who's a performer and who's not a hater and who actually looks to give people opportunities to help them change their lives. And I know firsthand what you've done for him. Me and Skumba have had conversations. He's very grateful for the opportunities you gave him, and now he's doing great on his own. And
he's putting on other guys as well. You know, that's the cool thing about Skumba.
So now when you started doing that, was that always your mindset, or you just kind of saw the effect that it had and go, this is something I can do to help others?
I just saw it happening because, so for me, there was that bit of loneliness in the beginning, right? Because I was, you know, I was the only Black comedian, I was the only Black person in rooms, and for years and years. So, and then it got to that point where I had this material which I could not perform to a white audience, right? Which naturally would have just killed with an African audience or a Black audience or Indian, colors, blah, blah, blah. So, but the show became a monster. I mean, so the first show, right, in the year 2000, we used to do shows called the King Size Comedy Shows with Roddy Quinn, right? Which comedy was literally white people. So then I said to Roddy, I want to do a Black show, and I wanted to do a show called Blacks Only because we were ripping off the old apartheid laws of whites only.
Whites only, absolutely. I think it's brilliant. I think the title of the show is brilliant, man.
Yeah, fan.
Yeah. So the first ever Blacks Only comedy show, right? October 2004, Nelson Mandela Theatre, where I filmed my DVD. At 7 p.m., there was a king-size comedy show with 1,000 white people in the audience, right? And a different lineup. At 9 o'clock, in the same venue, the first Blacks Only comedy show, there was 1,000 Black people in the same theater. Wow. With a different lineup, with just one white comic, because the running joke became we have one white comedian on every show. Yeah. And Chris Forrest was the first comic who did it, but he kind of comes on stage and I'm like, you can't be on. And then he went back on stage and painted himself black because we were ripping off a comedian, filmmaker called Leon Schuster, who kind of dresses and paints himself black in his movies, you know, really? in South Africa. And that was the reason he could get to be on. So there was always like a story, why is the white guy on stage? You know, Martin Jonas spoke vernacular. Conrad Koch had a black puppet or like a colored puppet. So it became like a running joke. Why do we have a white comedian on the lineup? You know? So, but because literally, you know, I always say to people, no one gives people, you know, when people call you and ask you how much do you want for a gig, and I'm like, I do my own gigs, so I don't have a fee, I don't have a price to say to you, because I don't get booked. You know, I know it sounds like a line from a Jay-Z song.
No,
but besides corporate, Yeah. So besides corporates, I was the one booking other comics, you know, until maybe one or two comedians or like some clubs came up. The Goliaths started having their own clubs. Skumba started doing his gigs. And even then, we show up. If you say to me, here's $100, I'm like, thanks, brother. If you say, here's $200 or $300, I'm like, cool. But I don't go there asking you, how much are you going to pay me? Because no one will pay me what I want to charge for a gig. So the money element for me wasn't an issue. So there wasn't me trying to make money out of the comedian that's coming up next or the guy that's, you know, that I'm putting on. I just thought this guy's funny and they deserve to be out there, or they deserve a platform or a stage. It's still happening. It's just that financially now I'm doing it on a smaller scale because I was buying people cars, I was signing leases for comics. You know, there were times I was trying to buy myself a car and I couldn't because I was overexposed because I had all these other cars in my name that I had other comedians driving. No questions asked, really.
That touches me so much because these are things you don't have to do. And I look forward to being in a position to be able to do some of those same things for comedians that I care about or comedians that I see that I feel deserve an opportunity, man. Because to extend yourself like that to help people have a better life is bigger than just comedy, man. That speaks to your humanity and your heart, man. And that's why I love and appreciate your friendship so much. And I love coming to perform in South Africa. There's some of the best shows that I've done. And when all this shit clears up, man, I can't wait. Man. I can't wait to come back there, and I can't wait to have you on Ruby Tuesdays.
Yeah, Gerard?
I just wanted to say real quick, too, on top of what Ruben said in regard to humanity, I think it's significant inside of comedy where we have, it's almost, I forget, hazing is what it's like. If you were to pledge to get into something, you might have to get beat up. And then the guy who gets hurt the worst, when he gets inside the group, he'll turn around and really damage the next group of people coming in because he got beat. But when we're uplifted by the people who brought us in, it breeds uplifting. So almost everybody, it's just like I was waiting to hear those stories about Skumba and the other people who you have not only brought in and helped lift up, but when you send them, when they go off to do their own thing, they're probably going to do it like how it was done before. So on that tip, humanity, absolutely. But inside of comedy, where there is less humanity, man, that's a beautiful thing, man. And that's a big deal, too. So big shout out to all the comics who've been influenced, man. That's a big deal.
Thank you very much,
man. Spread 1,000
and for me, you know, someone yesterday asked me, when do I think I've arrived or have I done a gig? And I said to them, I want to sell out shows in Africa, you know. I've toured with Russell in Canada a bit in California, and I've seen, you know, Russell Peters, right?
Right.
And that's awesome. And I always say to people, having seen that, for me, if I was doing 5,000-6,000 people in Kenya, in Uganda, in Zanzibar, in Bra, that's literally what's at the back of my head, you know. And someone else that Ruben definitely must talk to and introduce you, Gerard, to as well, and the audience. The first time I brought a Nigerian comedian to South Africa is a guy called Basket Mouth. I don't know if you've seen him.
Shout out Basket Mouth. I was supposed to go to Nigeria, but it's not working out, man. But hopefully one day soon.
So Gerard, with all the stories you've heard about me, right?
Yes.
If you go to Nigeria, Basket Mouth has a show with about 7,000 people, but they've got these round tables, and the price is about $10,000 US dollars a table, about $1 million Nigerian naira,
really?
Right? And then you've got the average $20, $30 tickets, a little bit towards the back,
yes,
in the venue. So the guys on the round tables, you'll have like one guy with 8 girls, right? Or like 2 guys and 7 empty chairs because they paid for them, right?
Right.
And then they sit there and look at you like, come on, make me laugh. Make me laugh. Right?
Hey, because they just played $10,000 US.
Right.
Yeah.
But the people at the back are like killing themselves.
So we say the cheap seats. Yeah.
They appreciate it for real. They appreciate it for real.
I toured with Basket in the UK, in London, in Manchester. Like 4,000 Nigerians at the Apollo in London. I think now he's doing the Wembley with like 6,000-7,000 people, but it's like 99% Nigerians, right?
Yeah. Well,
he does stadiums in other cities in Nigeria.
Well,
and for me, that's where we're at, right? You know.
Well, I met Basketmouth originally through Russell. And then I remember sending you a text like, hey, I think I sent you a picture with me in Basketmouth.
I think you were in Montreal the 1 year when I was there.
I met him in Montreal originally. So he came to Ruby Tuesdays. And then when I got off stage, he was like, yo, I was going to bring you before. Like, I've heard good things about you. But now, after seeing what you do, I got to get you to Nigeria, which makes you feel good when somebody... It's different from being referred and then somebody actually seeing you work and going, yo, I trust David, I trust Russell, but man, I got to see you work, man. You a beast, dude. I want to get you over there. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. But you led me to the next point that I wanted to make, because one thing that I told Skumba when we talked and he was asking me a little bit of advice is, comedically, it just depends on what you want out of your career and what your skill set is. Now, I told Skumba, he can stay in South Africa for the rest of his life, doing shows in Zulu and make a lot of money and be happy. But if you have a desire to go to the UK or to come to the US or to go to different places and play, you're going to have to work on other skill sets. You're going to have to work on your English material and your jokes material to be able to translate. And one thing that I love about you, and Dwayne Perkins, who was on earlier, mentioned this, is you go to the UK, you come to America, you went to Montreal, and I'm sure you've proven to yourself that your brand can work in other countries and in front of different types of audiences. So my first question to you is, how did you get to the Montreal Comedy Festival in the first place? Did you pay for yourself to go there? Did somebody see you and like, yo, come to Montreal? Like, how did you get there, and what was your experience like in Montreal, and what year was it?
So I think the first year might have been 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, because of there were no black comedians, when I came out in South Africa in 1998, 99, I was still living in gigs, right? In res, in like a school accommodation.
Yeah,
right?
Dorms. We call them dorms.
In dorms. I was still living in dorms.
Uh-huh.
And because the festival happened in October and the school year ends kind of like November, December, whatever in South Africa. So when I was growing up in my final year and I got booked for this festival by Sam Hendrickson, the publicity from the festival, I would go to a pre-recorded interview and they play the thing at like 6 p.m. And then I would rush, take a taxi, go back to my dorm so that I can catch myself on another TV show, like Top Billing or whatever, which was on at 7 p.m.
Jeez.
So it was at that level, and I was living in dorm. So I was literally watching myself in a communal TV room in the res where I'm staying, You're
staying in a dorm, but you're on TV.
I'd be on TV at Cape at 6, which was like a local Western Cape channel. And then at 7 o'clock, I'd be on this show, which was a lifestyle show called Top Billing.
Mm-hmm.
At 7 o'clock. Right?
So David, when you were walking around campus, did your life must have changed? People must have been like, "Yo, there's David Cal. That's David Cal." Was it that type of change for you?
It was. I was the guy who was performing in the dining hall at our year end for our res. I had the little, almost like my own TV show in res. I would go to people's rooms with a camera and go through their stuff.
Wow.
I had like a made-up magazine that I would put it together and post it on a notice board. but literally making fun of everyone else in the res as if they were the audience,
Right.
Yeah.
And then it kind of obviously spiraled. But here's the thing, right? So I graduated end of 1998. And then I went back and I registered for another degree in 1999 for like a media studies degree, because I had a gig outside Cape Town and I traveled back to Cape Town from home. And then I went back to RES, because as long as your school fees is paid from the previous year, you can register without pay, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I registered again so that I can have a place to stay. So I wouldn't have had a place to stay in 1999. So I went back to varsity. I registered for another degree. I stayed in RES, but I stopped going to class in March after like 2-3 months, because I became so famous and I started doing corporate gigs and I was flying in and out of Cape Town, but I didn't have a place to stay. So I stayed.
Wow. I remember the actor Dustin Hoffman years ago. I can't remember. I think it was Midnight Cowboy was his first big break. It's an old movie, and he was literally famous, and he was living in a studio apartment with roommates at the time. So, that's a very similar story to Poppin' and not. I remember hearing Too Short. You know who the rapper Too Short is, right?
Yeah.
So Too Short was talking about what was hard for him. Same thing. He said he was being noticed by everyone everywhere in Oakland and different places he'd go, but he was broke. He said he was flat broke, but everybody knew who he was.
Matter of fact, he was missing that tooth at the time.
Yeah.
He had that one tooth missing. Yes.
So you're staying in the dorm. So again, how'd you make it to Montreal? What was that process?
So Sam Hendricks, who first brought out Russell Peters and who was working with Hannah. So Sam was the one who booked me for, I think, between Montreal and Bruce, that I still speak to now, the current CEO of Just for Laughs.
Oh, Bruce Hill.
There was a show, yeah, Bruce Hill. So there was a show called Globecom, right, where they had 6 or 7 comics. So one comic from the US, one from Canada, one from New Zealand, one from UK. I was the guy from Africa in the lineup.
What was the name of the show?
It was called Globecom.
Globecom?
Globecom, yeah. GLOBECOM.
Okay.
And that's the only show I was booked for, right? For 3 nights, and then we had like 3 warm-up gigs. And I've got a tape of this show. So I go in there, Sam Hendricks takes me to the guy who used to make the Nelson Mandela shirts. I stock up like 6 of this Nelson Mandela shirts.
So everybody knows where you're from.
Because remember, I used to kill with Nelson Mandela impersonations, right?
Yeah. You do a good Nelson Mandela.
Let me put it to you this way. I found out on stage in my first gig that nobody knew who the fuck Nelson Mandela was at the time in Canada. So the impersonation.
That's
but
your best bit. Nobody knew about it.
Right. That's
so Rube, this is my first show. I'm nervous as hell. And I remember the comic because I bumped into him again at another gig in Montreal now when we were in Montreal. I have this on tape, right? Because I've recorded almost all my shows for the past 20 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this guy is introducing me. Nobody knows me. I'm from South Africa. I'm in my Mandela shirt. I've never performed in Canada. Just for Laughs, biggest comedy festival in the world.
So why does he have his uncle on his shirt?
Right.
So this guy comes and says, well, ladies and gentlemen, every now and then in a comedy club, a legend pops in. Tonight, that didn't happen. Your next comedian, David Carr.
Who was the comedian? Who was the comic who introduced you?
I'll remember his name. I'll tell you the name. I'll send it to you or something.
Oh,
so
man.
Anyway, you know, I do my 2-3 warm-up gigs. I destroyed Lobcom, bruh. I end up being put on Uptown Comics, which is where Dwayne was, right? That's where I met Dwayne, which was a lineup of just black comics at Just for Laughs, right? I get given 7 minutes in the first show, like a 7 o'clock show. They give me 12 minutes in the 9:30 show. Then I got to get on the Best of the Fest.
Yeah.
And this was my first time ever performing Just for Laughs, and it was crazy.
And that must have gave you so much confidence going back to South Africa. You must have been like, okay, I know that if I want to go other places and perform, I have the ability to do that. Because sometimes you don't know until you know. You know what I mean? You think you can do it, but sometimes when you actually go, oh shit, this works. I mean, that's how I felt, you know, traveling with Russell Peters. You know, I was nervous going international. The first gig we did was in Oman, and when I came out, everybody was covered, and my heart just started beating. I was sweating because you just don't know. You feel like I believe everybody will get this material, but you don't know until you know. And I remember saying the first joke, and there being a pause, and then the whole arena exploded, and then I took a deep breath, and I absolutely killed, man. And just to feel like, yo, I'm making people laugh that
in the Middle East,
in a whole nother country, they speak a different language.
Another continent.
On another continent, absolutely, absolutely.
And I don't want to jump back in. That's what I wasn't certainly not trying to compare Rotterdam to South Africa.
Oh no.
But that people standing on this side of the curtain, and I don't understand anything except they're laughing at the language. Like, how are they going to get me? You tell one joke, they laugh, and it's like, all right.
Yeah, well, Gerard, I mean, there's no need to apologize because it's the same exact experience. Your experience isn't any less than mine because you're in South Africa. It's when you can't understand what comedians are saying and the audience is laughing, that can be a little unnerving, man. You know?
Here's where it does matter is because you remember, we understand the language of humor and we understand comedy. And so I don't know what the guy is saying, but his disposition to me is saying he's not that damn funny. That's where it was all convoluted because he was not a ripper and a killer, but they were laughing at what he was saying, but it was like all of that was like, I can't be worse than this dude. Please let them laugh at what I gotta say.
So in 2013, I think, or 15, I don't remember. Me and Kagiso headlined a festival in Turku in Finland, right?
Finland, wow.
So we fly to Helsinki, and then we 2-hour drive to Turku, 2 hours outside Helsinki. So for the entire festival, right, myself and Kagiso are the only people in the town, in the actual town, right?
Right.
There's 2 other guys from Iceland, 2 other comics. Me and Kagiso are the only English-speaking comedians at the festival, and there's like 30 Finnish-speaking comedians.
Right. Okay, we have camaraderie after the show, you know.
So the same way, right? The same way, Ruben, we watching all these guys killing, speaking Finnish, right?
Yeah.
And then the MC, before we go on, goes from speaking Finnish and goes, okay, this next comedian is going to speak English.
Like, Lord have mercy. Yeah.
If you need to go to the bathroom,
welcome on stage. That's how he introduced Kagiso Ledigga. Exactly what I just did. Right?
Yes.
Oh, he couldn't pronounce his name.
Welcome on stage.
So
He couldn't pronounce the name.
You might even be a bigger star there. They just don't know your name.
We destroyed. One of the best times we've had traveling, because, you know, we've worked together a lot, and then sometimes he'd be producing and I'm doing whatever, and then we'd meet and go and do something, or we'd go to Cannes Film Festival or something, and then we went on this gig. So from when we leave Finland, I mean, it was September, it's like 3 degrees when we land. We put our bags in the hotel and we go and start buying and shopping and getting warm stuff. Monday we leave, we check the weather. We wanted to go to Switzerland, but Switzerland, it's like 5 degrees, it's raining. And it says Paris, 19 degrees. So we drive to Helsinki, we take Air France to Paris. We're like, we're gonna do 2 days in Paris. I booked accommodation online, right? I'm like, these rooms are quite cheap for this type of
you the only motherfucker I know that would go to Paris and find the ghetto in Paris. And here's the thing, David ain't broke either. David ain't broke, but this motherfucker, the cheapest. He found the Motel 6 in Paris. That's what he found.
So we get to the airport, we take the train, we get off at our station, we start walking to our hotel, but like every single shop is like selling Indian clothes material and spices and jewelry. Every single shop along the street, that's what they're selling. We get to our hotel.
You see Nigerians selling fake watches.
Please.
When you see the Nigerians, you know you in the hood.
We get to our rooms. We get to our rooms. There's no curtain. Like nothing separates the shower from my bed. And then I start seeing the handles. They give us the
disabled rooms. Yo, there's no Alpha Tower. The Alpha Tower is not there. Like, what? What Paris did you go to?
Like, what's the one that leans?
The Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Yeah. You're like, that's what our room was.
Their room was that, huh?
The room was just sideways, yeah.
So Dave, go ahead, finish.
So it turns out they gave us the disabled rooms.
You guys got the disabled room? Hilarious. Hilarious. So Dave,
save 50 grand.
Do you like performing in the US? Do you like coming out here and performing? How do you find the audiences?
So obviously, I mean, I did the last time I was there, I think 2017, or the last time I was on stage in New York, especially.
Hold on 1 second, David. Hold on 1 second. I gotta give a shout out to this brother right here, the one and only Maestro Clark. Maestro, I love you, boy. We got to catch up. Me and Chris Tucker was just talking about you when he did my show, when he did Ruby Tuesday. So we got to connect. I told him to give you my number. I'm not sure if he did, but let's connect. You remember Maestro Clark, right, Gerard?
Absolutely, I remember Maestro. As a matter of fact, I want to say I just referred to him on something I was just doing. But yeah, big shouts out, man. Funny as hell. Forget the Fox show. I was a young dude in Atlanta when he got Soul Train. Remember, he was Soul Train guy, came and represented. But yeah, Maestro Clark, and man, a significant name in comedy, man. Damn right.
Yeah, David, he's a great guy that you would like. When I met Maestro, man,
I saw Finesh Michel send a shout out as well.
Yeah, he sent a shout out. I told Finesse to chime in to get in, you know, but he was out shopping. So maybe when he gets back, he'll jump in on us. So go ahead.
Yeah. So I've done again. You know, here's the crazy thing. But I mean, I don't know if you were aware at the time. So in 2017, I had a Black Songly book for June. You know, Joburg show. Cape Town show, end of the month. But I was shooting a TV show in May, right, for about a month. And on one of the days we were shooting, I don't know if I was having a panic attack. I thought I was having a heart attack, right?
Oh, wow.
I was rushed to hospital from set. And the doctor checked me out. It's like, nothing physically wrong with you, blood tests, and checked everything. And they were like, but if you don't slow down the way you're going, you're going to die in like 3 months, right?
Yeah.
And this was May, and I had a Black Song Joburg almost sold out for June. And then I had one booked for Cape Town for the 30th, which Roddy decided, let's cancel the show. I was getting ready to book the Apollo in London for August the 3rd or 4th. I even have like a mock-up poster for the show. And I had to cancel that, cancel the Black Song Cape Town. And I canceled everything from June, July, August, right? And I went to the US. And that's when I think we were together in Montreal. And I was
when you were
I think I was opening for Tom Segura as well in one of his shows.
That's right. That's right. In Montreal, you were doing that. That was the year that I was there working with Tiffany Haddish, and then I did the gala, and then I did the show with Little Rel. Yeah.
But here's the crazy story, right? So that whole show. So when I went to the US in June, I was taking a break. So I canceled everything at home for like 3 months, right? And I was supposed
weren't you with the wife and the kids, and you guys ended up being in New York for like a month or something?
So I first went in June, and then I went to Russell's house. Russell was studying writing material for his previous tour. So he was about to go to Washington, D.C., book me flights. I was going to tour with him, go to D.C., and then a friend of mine got shot in South Africa.
Wow. I remember that.
And I canceled everything with Russell, had to change my flights, flew back home. When I got back home, we went to memorials and this and that, and the family wanted a private funeral. So I ended up not having anything to do because I had canceled my June, July, August already, right? Then I went back to go to Montreal, but I stopped in New York. I met the booker for the Comedy Cellar, right? Marina Franklin introduced me. Gray Barnes was there as well. And they were like, "Yo, do you know who this is?" And blah, blah, blah. And it's always a bit confusing for a lot of people when they meet me in America or in New York especially, because they've sort of never heard of me, but they know Trevor, right?
Yeah.
So they can't put it together. If Marina Franklin and Greg Barnes are saying all the shit about you, like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
And I met the booker for the Comedy Cellar. Took an email, and I was like, I'm going to Montreal, and then I'm coming back, and then da-da-da-da. I think I did 8 shows at the Comedy Cellar. I mean, I wasn't taking money, obviously, because I can't get paid in the US. But I had like 2 shows in some nights, 3 nights a weekend. Then my wife and kids came, right? And we went to Disney World.
I remember David texted me like, "Shit, man, I'm running out of money. It's so expensive."
So here's the crazy thing, because in South Africa, I was sponsored by General Motors, right? So a friend of mine who used to work for General Motors here, General Motors closed up in South Africa, and they moved back to the States in Richfield, in Connecticut. And then he gave me a car, gave me an Escalade 4x4, and I would drive from Richfield every night to go to New York, $80 parking because I didn't know shit, for like one night.
Parking walk.
Go to the Comedy Cellar, go back, and then my wife and kids came, and we drove. I drove from Richfield to Florida to Disney World. We drove over 2 days. over 3 days going and 2 days coming back. But when I told Russell Peters, that I'm taking my wife and kids to Disney World, right? Russell said to me, Disney World is fucking expensive.
Yeah. Russell Peters tells you something is expensive, because when I laugh, and I'm not trying to put David's business out there, but David is not broke to the least bit. David does very, very, very well.
Right.
So when David's like, holy shit, man, I've been out here with the family. Now we got to do this. Now we got to do that. Damn, man, I'm gonna run out of money.
Rube, when Russell said to me, Disney World is expensive, I kind of looked at him and I was like, okay. But I'm also like, but this is Russell Peters. Why would he say to me?
He was trying to warn you, man.
That was a note of caution.
But this is what they got. Go ahead, man.
Dude, I think like $130 per person per park. There's 4 of us. There's 4 parks. We did like 3 parks. That was like 18,000 rands, like almost $2,000, I think, or just less than $2,000.
And that was for the day, right? That was
so one day was like $500, almost like $8,000 or something. And then we pre-bought for 3 parks, because you can't cheat. You can't go to 2 parks in one day. They've designed it very well. They make sure all the shit your kids want are in different parks. Right?
Separated.
Yeah. So you kind of have to do like maybe 2 days or something. So we buy tickets for 3 days, and I wasn't paying for the car, booking accommodation and all that. And then we'll get there maybe at 12 p.m. and it closes at 9. And the first day we're there at 12, and at 2 p.m. my kids are like, okay, we want to go home now. And I'm like, yo.
Y'all better have some fun.
I was like, that shit ain't happening. I made them sit, and we waited for the laser show at 9 p.m. And we sat on this grass. I started finding like popcorn that you can refill as you go the whole day.
and then you went back to South Africa and got a job at Nando's. Damn.
But the irony for me for the whole trip, right, Rube? I left home to go there not to do anything, right? But I ended up having some of the best gigs I've ever had in my life. I did my own show at Caroline's. Open up for, because I'd be like, yo, Tom Segura, I'll go with Russell to the Comedy Store, bump into Tom. Tom is like, oh yeah, I'm going to Montreal. I'm like, oh cool, I'm gonna be there as well. It's like, cool, you wanna jump on stage? I'm like, sure, why not? Russell would be like, do you wanna go to the Comedy Store? Do you wanna go to the club? Do you want me to call them? Because I can call them if you want. So I ended up, I think I went back. I went from Montreal. I went to Russell's place in Toronto. I did Yak Yaks. I did another club in Toronto. I did one night, and then the owner asked me to headline the next 3 nights. Nice. Did that. Went back to New York. Did more Comedy Cellar. Then my wife and kids came. Went to Disney World. Went back to Richfield. Did more Comedy Cellar. Did my own show. And then I came back home. So for me, because my whole thing has always been, I've always produced my own shows. And I've always done my own gigs. I'm literally just planning whenever next I can, book venues, US, UK, Australia, whatever, get on the plane, go and do my shows and come back home, I realize also I don't really have to move if I don't want to move, and I kind of brood my wife and kids now, man. I've got 3 kids now, and it's and the world has changed so fast also and become so smaller. Now we can't even perform anyway, let alone performing in the US. I can't perform in South Africa either,
I'll ask you this, David. when you were talking about doing shows around the U.S. and that you could not collect payment.
Yeah.
When you were in Canada, is that the same thing there, or were you able to earn a couple of dollars for it? Because when you say you performed and the owner says headline the next 3 nights, you know, were you able to pick up bread on that one?
No, I couldn't. So, but I've got my Canadian visa because I used to travel a lot for film, right? So the creative visa in Canada is different from the US.
That's my
US visa is like a business. You can have business meetings. I mean, me being on stage is almost like an audition, you know, because it's like an open mic because I'm not getting any money.
Right.
So in Canada, my visa, even though I wasn't, you know, booked for official shows, you know, I called Anthony Sarukas. He hooked me up with someone else. You know, Russell would get someone else to help me out in Toronto. So, but my Canadian visa, because I used to travel for film festivals and all that, you can do stuff, you know, you can film stuff, you can, you know, almost do like behind the scenes things, you can do like film work. And but also because remember, club gigs don't really pay a lot of money anyway. So I think Canadian guys were like $20 Canadian dollars a gig.
Right.
And you know,
please don't tell the people in South Africa what kind of money they pay here in Los Angeles. We go ahead and change the subject right now.
I don't even know because I've never even picked up any cash. But for me, when I was there, my whole thing has always been I never put money before anything I was doing. Right. And that's honestly been some of the best work I've ever done.
Oh, absolutely. You know? I only ask about it because after the fantastic Disney story, you could let us know that you have more children. I want to know what's the future that your youngest child will ever have a Disney.
Well, now we've had one since we went to Disney World. He was made around that time, but not in Disney World.
Like I played at the hotel. Yeah, we're gonna get our kids don't want to have fun. We're gonna maximize this.
Yeah, but here's the thing, you know.
You sent your kids on a ride while you went on a ride.
So the crazy thing is when you're a comic and you know you start having kids and anything you do, you start looking for material, right?
Yeah. So
what I guess the comfort is always I've got a routine I do about going to Disney World and which is what happened to me when I was there, you know. And I do this thing that Disney World is so expensive. When black people see each other, they congratulate each other. because I saw so I saw this guy when I was walking around in Disney World. This black guy comes opposite me, looks at me. I look at him and he gives me the thumbs up, right? And then my wife and 2 kids show up behind me and his face just fucking went like, you with all these people. Don't tell me you're paying for all this.
Yeah, as a very successful drug dealer. Yeah.
So Dave, I want to switch gears a little bit because and we're not keeping you too long, are we? You good? You ain't doing nothing. You're on quarantine.
Hey man, I'm starting a fresh 2 weeks tomorrow because this would have been our end of lockdown, but we added 2 more weeks, which starts tomorrow. So for me, it starts in about 10 minutes at midnight.
So like me and Gerard both, you're more than just a comedian. You are a writer, actor, producer, and director. Now, you mentioned earlier about you being on TV. That phrase "chop chop" that you what is it? What wasn't there? No, it's quang. Where did that come from? Where did quang?
Quang.
Yeah.
So these birds basically used to show up where I used to live before I bought my house. I used to rent in a place called Melrose. And with friends of mine, Quilla Debza, who they have a band and they play the flute, and they're like 3 brothers. And we stayed in the same estate, same complex at the time. And every morning, these birds would kind of wake us up, you know. And one of the brothers Tepo Lerole. You know, when you're pissed off at something, it's like, and you try and almost like you're trying to throw it back at it. So the bed would go whah, and then he'd come out of the apartment and start screaming whah back to the bed.
But how did it become so popular?
Because literally every show I've done, every TV interview, everywhere I went, I started opening up by just saying whah. And then it got to a point where the audience would say it back. And now I'd be walking around somewhere and I'd just hear someone go whah.
Oh, so I thought that was a character you did on a TV show. Wasn't there a TV show that you did early on in your career that got
the Pure Monati show? There was the Pure Monati show we did, like it's now maybe 15 years ago.
What was
Pure Monati show, popularly known as PMS.
Okay.
It was the Pure Monati show. No, it wasn't even from there. This happened a few years after the Pure Monati show.
But the Pure Monati show, was that like is that the show you told me that was kind of like in living color? It was like a sketch show?
Yeah, that was the In Living Color Saturday Night Live of South Africa, first black sketch comedy show. So myself and Kagiso created and produced that maybe now 15 years ago.
What year was that, and how long had you been doing comedy before you were on, you know, the PMS show, which was like the In Living Color of South Africa?
So we developed the show when we were second year at the University of Cape Town in 1997.
Oh, wow.
It only got on air in 2003.
Wow.
So I started doing stand-up in 1998, which kind of, when we started, me and Kagiso, and became well-known comedians, it kind of then made it easier because we became the stem for black stand-up comedy, you know. That's why we could write, produce, act in it, and went on to make Blitz Patrol after that. It's currently on Netflix.
Blitz Patrol is like
the Rush Hour of South Africa.
Oh, it's like a Rush Hour movie.
Wait, the name of it?
Buddy cop film. A buddy cop film. It's called Blitz Patrol.
Blitz Patrol, which was a buddy cop film. And it's funny you compared it to Rush Hour, because when people ask me about you, like you said, a lot of people know Trevor Noah from South Africa, and they be like, man, I've heard of David Cow. And I go, well, I call you the Chris Tucker of South Africa. And the reason why I use that example is everybody knows Chris Tucker in America, but Black people were the first ones to really rally around Chris after the Friday movies. Like, he became big in the Black community. And when I went to South Africa and hung out with you, not saying that white people didn't know who you were, but every Black person knew who you were. Like, you were a Black star. You know what I mean? So I always use that comparison. Angelo Saruka says, "What's up, Big Ant?"
Yo, Angela, Big Ant.
Angelo says, "What's up?" Angelo is a very funny Greek comedian from Montreal. Started doing comedy with Russell Peters. Follow him if you guys don't know him. He's a very, very funny dude. Yeah, Great guy.
He hooked up my gig in Canada when I was there.
Yeah, he's a good guy, man. Angelo's one of those guys. I call him a bitch he's my boy, and he's very funny, and he's a very giving comedian also, man. He's thrown my name around, and he's just that type of guy. But let's get back. Man. So Blitz Patrol, how did Blitz Patrol come about? Because I think you showed me a clip of Blitz Patrol when I remember you flying to Vegas with no sleep, when you fell asleep at the dinner table in Vegas, like full on sleep, G. Full on, give this motherfucker a blanket. That's how
narcoleptic.
Man. So I was opening up for Russell at the Palms, I believe.
At the Caesar's Palace.
Was it Caesar's? Oh yeah. It was at Caesar's.
I was there.
Oh, maybe
Caesar's Palace.
I wasn't on that show. I think I was just there hanging out. Was I on the show? Or
No. Someone else opened for us. But we came. In Vegas. We drove. Dwayne Perkins drove. There were like 21 people, I think, at the dinner.
Yeah, we all came and hung. That's right. DP did come because we was like, man, David is in America. We got to meet David in Vegas.
Yeah. So I went from the Cannes Film Festival.
Yes. See,
And I flew.
see how he's flossing, G? See how he's flossing?
I'm trying. I was going to ask.
That's how he was at the Motel 6. He was
Used to be my life.
Motel ladies. Yeah.
So that used to be my life. That used to be my life. And I thought I knew jet lag, right? So I fly from London or from France, go to London, and I fly Virgin to
Vegas.
To Las Vegas. My first time in Vegas. I get there on the Friday. I go to Russell's house, and then, we go to the hotel. We have a dinner the night before. Russell's show was on the Saturday, and I thought I was doing well, man.
Yo, so let me finish the story because David probably don't even remember. So David flies in. We're like, yo,
me up. You and Peak picked me up.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. We picked David up from the airport. We go back to Russell's house. We're like, yo, you want to take a nap or something? Nah, I'm good. I'm good, man. I slept on the plane, man. But you just flew from Paris, connected through London. Now you just landed. You sure you don't want to take a nap? Nah, man. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. All right, we're gonna go out to dinner in a few hours. I'll be fine. We get to dinner. We go to Joe's Stone Crab.
Oh my gosh.
Which is phenomenal food. Shout out Joe's Stone Crab.
Yeah.
I don't think the appetizers got to the table before David was asleep. and David don't even drink. Everybody's talking and is laughing. There was probably like 20 of us or something like that. Crazy. It was
about 21 people, I remember.
Thank you, Russell Peters, man. But it was a big group of us. And we didn't
Shout out to Russell, man.
Shout out to Russell, man. I love him. And the food started coming, G, and the food is delicious. David was asleep, and there was like, let him sleep. Right. Portion.
Stone Crab, Joe Stone Crab.
I had to go because Russell had a couple of rooms at the hotel. So Pete gave me a room, and I passed out. And then I left. When everybody was going home, I had to get up and went home. And then I found out I missed out on so much,
Oh, dude.
And I wanted to cry because I missed out on Vegas on a Friday night with Russell Peters.
Yeah,
so I wanted to cry on the Saturday.
You only came for a day, right?
I stayed for the show and then I left. So here's what happened, right? Everybody was coming and, guys flew in. Yanni flew from Montreal or from Toronto, I don't remember. And the show was Saturday, right? Then I was supposed to go back, I think Sunday or Monday, I think Sunday. Then on Sunday, Russell says everyone is driving back to LA. And everybody cancels their flights. They rebook and reroute their flights to fly from LA back to Canada, starting from scratch, spin bed. My wife was pregnant with my second child.
Yes. I remember that.
And I said, listen, I have to go back to Africa. I can't stay. So they booked me at the Venetia. Is it the Venetia?
The Venetian.
One of the hotels. Venetian.
Venetian, yeah.
So Russell booked me at the Venetian for the Sunday night, and then you guys drove back to LA, and then everybody was gonna hang out in LA and go back to Vegas. But I was like, yo, because Russell was like, come, we'll change your flight, you can leave. I was like, dude,
hey,
I have to go.
David, we got somebody else wants to pop in and say hello to you, man. We got another special
Yo.
that wants to join in. Gerard, I don't know if you had the pleasure to meet him, but you've definitely heard me talk about him because he's another comic that I love and I respect. He's absolutely hilarious. And ladies and gentlemen, Jean-Paul.
Hey, everybody. David, what's going on, David?
I hang out with this guy when in Toronto, man.
Yeah, and the last time I think I might have seen you was Laughs in Montreal.
I think 2017.
Yeah, man.
So, man, what up, John?
I'm good.
Yeah, I think you hooked up one of the gigs I did when I was there.
Don't
Oh no, you had a gig on the Sunday. I was flying back to New York.
Yeah, don't say that to Ruben.
Yeah, Jean Paul.
Ruben's bitter.
Yo, man, I love him and I hate him at the same time. This dude always talks about how he wants to get to Montreal. I mean to Toronto, which I love. Is one of my favorite cities in the world. And this lazy dude can't put me on. David, see, I would never give you this deal. I got.
Oh my God.
I can never give you this deal. But I told Jean Paul, I said, look, man, I ain't even trying to make no damn money. I don't even want to make any money. I just want to go perform. I want to do the David Kyle plan. I want to go and just perform. You ain't got to pay me. Maybe if I can make enough money for my plane ticket, which would be like $300 or $400, which I would never fly anywhere for that money. But I just want to play. This motherfucker, this nigga ain't done shit to get me out there, Dave.
COVID has changed me.
So
COVID has changed me.
COVID came right on time.
COVID has changed me. I'm a changed man. We're gonna make it happen. You will no longer be socially distant, my brother.
So have you met Gerard? Have you guys met?
No, man.
Yeah,
hey, Gerard, pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, the pleasure's mine, brother. How you doing, man?
I'm very good. You look like a reggae singer by the name of God. It's not Barris Hammond. Yeah, it is Barris Hammond. You look just like Barris Hammond, man.
I'm gonna have to look that up and
Barris Hammond is a legend.
I've just been insulted.
No, man. Barris Hammond is a legend. Many babies have been made to Barris Hammond's music.
Everybody from South Africa and America that's watching us live right now, Jean Paul is a very funny comedian out of Toronto by way of Trinidad
and Tobago, yes.
Trinidad and Tobago, man. Yeah. And, me and Jean Paul hit it off, and I'm glad to have you three brothers on because I feel like we're all cut from the same cloth. We have the same type of heart and same type of mentality. We all stay on each other to keep each other accountable. And we were talking about David's comedy career, but now we're transitioning. I want to talk more about David's films. He's been really active in trying to do more television and more film. And we talked about Blitz Patrol, which he showed me for the first time, I believe, when we were in Vegas. You pulled it up on the laptop, and I think you showed me a trailer.
Yeah, we were. So what I showed you was the 2-minute that we shot when we were trying to raise the money.
Right.
And I was about you had asked me how did it come about. So South Africa, making films in South Africa is so difficult, right? Because there's a lot of government bodies that can fund the movie, but to go through the paperwork and all the here's the biggest joke about Blitz Patrol, right? When Kagiso's then girlfriend, right, fell pregnant.
Tell him who Kagiso is.
Kagiso Lediga. So Kagiso Lediga just made Queen Sono. It's one of the biggest shows on Netflix right now.
Queen
Sono with Pel Tusi.
Yeah, there's a very popular show on Netflix that was produced out of South Africa, correct?
Yeah.
Oh,
it premiered about a month ago. Yeah.
Okay.
So Kagiso and I made a lot of TV shows, movies, and started stand-up together in South Africa. So his girlfriend falls pregnant, right? And now when he had to start spending time at home, he decides, okay, I want to see what David and Joey Rasdeen would be like as cops. And then he starts writing the script for Blitz Patrol.
That's a great.
But here's the crazy thing, right? About
just the visual alone.
Yeah. So here's the crazy thing about making movies in South Africa. From when he started writing the movie, when his girlfriend was pregnant, when we were at the premiere for Blitz Patrol, his son was 6, turning 7 years old.
Was how old?
7 years
7 years old.
So it took 7 years and 8 months.
That's how long it took us to raise the money, meet the people, go back and forth.
Let me say this, dude. That just shows commitment and dedication. And I'm not gonna give up. I'm not gonna let anybody tell me what I can and can't do. And I love that because you even hear stories of Hollywood where a movie will come out and they're going, it took us 10 years to get this movie made. It took this amount. So for you to persevere, man, and now you said it's playing on Netflix right now, correct? It's on Netflix?
Yeah. It's blowing up on Netflix. And Kagiso's got another film there called Catching Feelings. Then he's got this Queen Sono series, which is one of the highest.
Queen Sono is doing well, man. Queen Sono is doing well.
Premiered number 7 in the US and number 1 in a whole bunch of other countries.
Tony Rock sent me a message a few days ago because, you know, during quarantine, everybody is like, what are you watching? Yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And he was like, yo, have you know anything about Queen Sono? And I go, matter of fact, I do. I said, you remember David Cow, who you met in Montreal, the comedian from South Africa? I was like, yeah.
And in New York as well.
Yeah. And I said,
I told you when I was with him in New York.
Yeah, well, you hit me when you was with him in New York, and he was like, I was like, yo, David's boy didn't he write and produce?
Wrote, produced, directed.
Yeah, he did the whole thing. And it's a black female lead South African. She's gorgeous, by the way, man. She's beautiful.
Yeah, that's Pearl Thusi. Shout out to Pearl Thusi, man.
Amazing. Shout out.
Amazing chick. Amazing, awesome chick as well.
Get in there and do that there.
Shout out to But the reason why I watched the show even before, I didn't know it was from South Africa until the show started. And then first thing, because I just thought it was dope to have a black female action star.
Yeah, you know, first African and South African original Netflix series.
Because before, not to cut you off, but what was the Jill Scott one? Like she was like the best detective, female detective. Where she was like
that was lead. On HBO. I think that was HBO.
But was it based in South Africa? I know it was African.
It was based in Botswana.
What was the name of that?
In Botswana.
It was something like the best damn female.
Yeah, the number one female
detective. And it was a really good show.
Really?
I really enjoyed it. Like, the only thing that made me mad about it was the fact that I thought they could have utilized way more actual local and African actresses and actors. You know what I mean? Like,
so Queen Sono is 100% South African actor, director,
so dope, man.
Script, production, everything.
That's
shot
so
in a couple of African countries.
You said that's the first Netflix original series out of South Africa?
Ruben, Ted Sarandos came here for the premiere.
Oh, wow.
So
for you guys don't know who Ted Sarandos is, he is the head of Netflix.
Oh.
Wow. They must have really in that project, man. That's
the entire Amsterdam office from Netflix was in South Africa for the premiere.
So when I was watching it, I saw our boy in it.
Kagiso KG. Man.
I was happy. I was happy to see him a part of that. Now, I mean, I hate to be like normal friends and everything because I know it's probably be a longer answer, but this is some stupid shit my friends would ask me. Is like, how come you wasn't in the damn movie, man? my friends would see Rush Hour. They'd be like, man, how come you wasn't in Rush Hour?
Yeah.
Oh man, I told Chris Tucker I didn't feel like doing it, motherfucker. I don't know.
So Ruben, here's the thing. You see what you said and what Gerard said about me and stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
When it comes to film and television, any actor, writer, comedian, writer, most of them have careers thanks to Kagiso. I'm going to leave myself out. I'm going to leave the stuff we did together. But Kagiso did LNN with Loyiso Gola, which was like a late night show for like, I think 11 seasons. That he produced. I know
Loyiso Gola, right? Didn't he perform?
Yeah. You know Loyiso, yeah. Tall, young comic.
Yeah. Funny dude.
He did another show called Bantu Hour, where he basically employed comedians, actors, produced Catching Feelings, produced Mapet, one of the #1 biggest opening films. DJ Black Coffee came on as an executive producer on it, and now made Queen Sono. So even you seeing Kagiso KG Mokgadi now in Queen Sono, Loyiso Madinga, who's playing the French guy, who's working with Pearl Thusi's character in the thing.
I'm gonna finish it because I just watched one episode. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So basically, I don't know how many comedians literally owe their careers, writing careers, acting careers, literally to Kagiso.
Mm-hmm. So he did what you did. What you did in comedy, he did that for people in films.
Yeah. So basically, in film and TV.
So
besides
you didn't answer my question. Why wasn't you in the motherfucking movie? Everybody thinking about old Dave, huh?
so here's the thing. So which is why I never got to visit them on set, right? Last year, October, November, for 5 weeks, I was directing another feature film supposed to come out this year. Had like a 1 week break. Then I went to perform at Charlize Theron's charity gig in New York.
Damn!
Damn!
Don't just name drop and just try to move on.
I thought I heard something drop.
Like you just said, oh, I went and did Darnell Thompson's charity event. No.
I was like, I thought I heard something drop. What was that?
Hey, Ruben, you pressed him to do this. You asked him 3 times why he wasn't in the movie. He's like, all right, hand me my
so
pay this $1 million for shit I was doing that weekend.
I was busy doing bigger shit, Ruben.
Yeah, right.
Now go ahead.
Shout out to Kweku Mandela and Daba's cousin who put it together for me.
Mm-hmm.
And we were working on a few projects. So I directed the one movie for like 5 weeks. Went to New York for like a week or so. Then I came back and I directed another feature for like another 4 weeks.
Damn,
so I've got 2 films that are coming out at the cinema. Well, depending on what happens with COVID and Corona, I should have had 2 films coming out at the cinema this year.
So when they were doing, basically what you're saying, when they were doing Queen Sono,
when they were shooting, I was shooting as well.
You were shooting. Okay.
Can I say this real quick?
Go ahead, Gerard. Shout out Paul Dees real quick.
Yeah, I see Paul Dees in the thing. That's a comic I came up with, and I don't know if I can speak for him, but I always looked at when we came up in Atlanta in the 90s, it was really like pledging a fraternity, where we had to give, you know what I mean? Like you knew who was in charge and we knew that we didn't know much and we had to follow the rules to see how to be a great comedian from the great comedians in front of us. But it seems like when we were talking about David's spirit and how when you get on top and how you put other people in position to win, then when we're hearing about the Netflix people, it almost seems like the whole spirit of all the creatives in South Africa is what it sounds like to me. Were you influenced by that, or are you sitting at the top of that? Were you?
Basically, what he's saying is, where the haters at? It seems like everybody's helping everybody.
It's really consistent in entertainment and comedy here. You know. That's why I just want to know. Yeah. Oh.
So, damn, past midnight, man, in South Africa. This dude is still up.
That's how it is in my house too. Yeah. Everybody's on lockdown, homeschooling. Yeah, last night the kids watch White Chicks and they love it.
Go to sleep. But to reiterate what Gerard is saying is, and I'm speaking from my perspective and Gerard's perspective. It seems like in South Africa, you guys seem to have the spirit to bring up others. Is it? And I'm just thinking out loud. Maybe it's because of what you guys went through as a country.
Right, you birthed out of apartheid,
and you guys
So what happened with us, or with me and Kagiso, right? There's a guy called Fat Joe in South Africa, who I was first on his TV show. Then Kagiso came on and did a segment, and then we got our own TV show, the Pure Monate Show, right? So Fat Joe was the first guy who kind of put me out there, put me on his radio show. Then, Kagiso followed pretty much same shows, radio, TV, until we went on to do our own shows. And he's put on a lot of people. And then I went to, when I was in varsity studying drama, Akin Omotoso, who's another filmmaker, Netflix just announced his first Nigerian original for Netflix that he had to come from and come back home because of COVID-19 and all the lockdowns, right? When he was third year at the University of Cape Town, where me and Kagiso were studying, I was first year at the same drama school. So that relationship goes like 20 years back, Hakeem Kai Kazim, who was in Pirates of the Caribbean, 24. You know, he was in the first Wolverine movie, Nigerian, British, South African. He was in Akin's movies 20 years ago. Then I was trying to make a movie where I was going to direct him in a movie like 10 years later. And Akin had directed the two of us. And so there is like a line that we all knew we wanted. I didn't even want to make movies.
Right.
And the only reason I do is because of these guys, right? So there's like a whole acting and industry, if you want to call it that, where people are auditioning. There's production houses, there's producers. But because of me and Kagiso's stand-up comedy careers, we literally had people saying, can you guys make this? Or can you guys make this comedy show? Can you guys make this thing? Or we would go, we're going to make this movie. So never went to auditions. I never auditioned people for like almost 17, 16 movies that are made and wrote and directed, produced for Mnet, Mzansi Magic. Because I wrote the movie knowing I'm going to put Skumba in it. I'm going to put Kagiso Keiji Mokhari in it.
Right.
I might audition an actress, but I'm going to put Spico and Celeste in it.
Let me just.
So we kind of almost had our own sort of lane, if you want to call it that.
Let me just say this, man. I mean, I know what you're trying to hint at. I'll fly out to South Africa and be in some movies. You ain't got to beg, dude. Like I'll man. You know, I gotta stay in your back house. You know, your the house behind the house. But other than that, man, I'm. You know, you just tell me I'm ready to be in Queen Sono the second season. Yeah. So tell him I'm ready, man.
And Ruben, you're gonna need someone to carry them bags, man, because you're acting in a movie. You don't need to exert yourself physically. I got you, bro.
So literally, you know, me and Kagiso literally had kind of like our own parallel world. You know, we bought our own cameras at some stage, bought our own little equipment. So even some of the movies I was telling you about, all of them we made with our own equipment, or majority of the equipment was our own, you know?
Yes.
So between me and Kagiso, there was a lot of comedians that were getting jobs as actors. Some of them never acted before, you know, they were all like 5-10 minute routines on stage. They've never had one-man shows. Nobody knows or nobody knew who they were. But as soon as we put them in these movies we were making, I mean, the first movie I made with Skumba, that's probably, I stopped counting when the channel had repeated the movie about 500 times.
Woo!
Like baby boy.
Because people would tweet me, tag me. I would see it when it's playing on the channel. It's called Taxi Ride. Right?
Taxi Ride, I remember that.
Taxi Ride. Yeah.
There's a difference between taxis and cabs, right?
Because South African taxis are 16, they have license to carry 16 passengers, but they don't leave until they're full.
Okay.
So you can arrive at 6 a.m.
In Trinidad, it's like that as well. Yeah.
If it's not full by 6 p.m., they're gonna send you all back and tell you to come back tomorrow.
Yeah. It's like that in Trinidad as well.
It's like that in Trinidad as well.
Yeah, in order for the taxi to leave, so let's just say it holds 6 people, you have to, if you want to leave, you got to pay for the other
people. Yeah.
And then it goes. Outside of that, you got to wait and you're just sitting there and people are like, yeah, man.
So because the movies I was making for this channel, at the time, the budget was less than $10,000 when I made Taxi Ride. And I put in about $30,000 of my own money at the time. Right? It was the first movie I ever made. So because of the budget, the entire movie was based on the passengers. The first one arrives and has a friend who keeps saying they're on the way. Because I couldn't afford to move or to leave location.
Right.
Hilarious.
Right.
Hilarious.
Hey.
So Skumba was one of the taxi drivers, and another comic I love, Fiso Nene. Mpo Pops had a small part in it.
Yeah.
Pearl Tusi made a guest appearance in it. So you can imagine, I mean, I've known Pearl for like years. We've owned the modeling agency together at some stage. So now that movie, anything happens with taxis or in a taxi in South Africa, everybody would tag me. So someone would be sitting in a taxi and see something funny. They take a picture and then hashtag me or hashtag the movie or tag me, right?
Wow.
That's so
And then
dope,
I started counting from the premiere to when they were repeating it, or someone would tell me, "Oh, the movie's playing," because the channel owns the movie.
Right.
And at about 500 repeats, I stopped counting.
Wow. So let me say this,
And
David.
then I've made about 16. So I made the taxi ride. Then I made a 5-part series based on the taxi ride. Then I've made maybe 14 other 90-minute, some 54-minute features for the same channel
So
in about 5 years.
Let me ask you this, David, and this is perfect because you have two writers in Jean-Paul and Gerard. And I know me and you have talked about this for years, and maybe this is a time where we can make it happen. Like with the success of Queen Sono and it being, an international hit, it's even a hit here in the United States. Me and you and Dwayne Perkins for years have been trying to figure out a joint South African American vehicle. You know what I mean?
TV shows, sketch shows.
I love Perkins, man.
He was just on with us earlier, Jean-Paul.
Oh, really? Oh, man,
Yeah.
Love that.
So,
love that too.
So my question is, do you think now, after all the conversations me and you have had, do you think it can be easier to do some type of cross, movie, television show, cross production with both Americans and South Africans together? Because me and you have,
definitely.
Yeah, because I just think, we've come up with some funny ideas, man, and maybe now during this quarantine, this is the time to really sit down.
I don't know if this is relevant, or if I'm just talking out of my ass. But I honestly want to believe that the time that we're in, like literally this time capsule of whatever you want to call it, COVID.
This is the best time.
Yeah, and I honestly think that all the obstacles that we imagined and put in our way to say, well, we can't do it because of this. I think now people have a different perspective of life, and we're like, you know what, man? I don't know what's going to happen if this goes down again, and I don't want to be in the same position. I want to be able to create because I want to create, because it's in here, and I just want to get it out, and I don't want anyone's permission to create, especially when I know talented people like David and Gerard and Ruben and Dwayne Perkins and Ron Jostles and on all these amazing talents, not just comedians. But I think we realize that we don't have to wait on anyone anymore, because we don't want to be caught in this situation ever again.
So remember, Rube, I've given you tried to help me get Chris Tucker for my movie, The Dodgy Promoter.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
A road trip movie about a local hip hop band, Squatter Camp, which Dwayne is actually one of the writers. And that movie has been 10 years in the making. I've had a script for that movie for like
4 or
6 years.
Oh, yeah.
That's a pretty cool concept, man.
So bruh, now is the time. That's the short answer, right?
Yeah.
And definitely now it's even like we don't even have to think of where is it gonna go, what network. That's actually the easy part. Yeah. I know that's the easy part.
Now, even hearing you say that's the easy part now, look how quickly things have changed. Because before, that was the hard part,
Yeah, exactly.
So what has changed? And I'll let you answer. I'm gonna grab some water. What has changed where that's the easy part now? Explain.
So,
I'm listening.
Obviously, because of the birth of all the streaming platforms that are out there, right? Your Netflix probably being the most obvious or the biggest. You got Hulu, Amazon Prime.
Amazon, yeah.
So I think what Netflix has done best is when they get to a country, they want to know who are the best filmmakers in this country and what are the people watching in this country. So when they go to Spain, Money Heist is like the biggest fucking thing on Netflix. And it's in Spanish. Yeah. I watch it in Spanish with subtitles. I'm not trying to have it dubbed. So I think that model
Yeah, I watched all 4 parts.
When you pitch to a Netflix from Nigeria or South Africa, they want a dope Nigerian production or a dope ass South African production. If it kills and travels all over the world, fantastic, even better. But it's not prescribed, right? So I don't have to, I can write a script about an American Ruben coming to South Africa, not Ruben coming to play a South African, right? That's the biggest difference, because that's what killed a lot of South African productions.
Exactly.
International actors
coming this way
and forced on the actors, on the industry to try and recoup the money. So I'm saying one of the things that killed a lot of South African movies traveling is South Africans hated foreigners playing South Africans in all these big movies, you know, your Nelson Mandela stories and all these biopics that were coming out of South Africa.
So we have that here too.
So that's the first thing, right? And obviously when it comes to equipment and to actually producing a movie, unless you're making science fiction shit and Marvel movies, the money it takes now for us to make movies is way, way less from an equipment point of view. A lot of us own our own equipment anyway. We are the writer, we are the actors, we are the producers,
editors,
post
editors, sound people.
Key grip.
Yeah, but let me say this to you: when you see, and I'm going to start watching it tonight, a movie like Queensana, which seems like a huge production, like it has that, you know,
value look to it.
Yeah, it just looked like, man, they spent some money on this. You know what I mean?
No, but Ruben, you see me telling you about making a movie for $10,000 for like a channel. Blitz Patrolli, at the time, we made it for $1 million, right? At the time, for 10 million rands in 2013, right? For a South African 13-part series, the budgets are around 8.5 million rands, 10 million rands for 13-part drama on South African television.
What does that translate?
Less than $1 million.
Yeah, I think
it's almost
10 million is like $1 million.
700,000 US for an entire pay everyone producers.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
So for Queensano, that was the first time that wasn't the case, because it was that production. So the movies that I made, I mean, the budgets were maybe $500,000 or around $500,000. The ones I was directing, which is more or less average to make a movie in South Africa. So the biggest positive we have and the biggest advantage we have is, I've asked Russell for the past 5, 6, 10 years has always said to me, you tell me what you need me to do and I will be in the Doji promotion.
Yeah.
Yo, you are coming for the tour. I might be shooting. I might tell me where to go, when to show up. I'll be there, right? Yeah. And I don't take that for granted. So I know that if I can do my bit and write a dope ass production, first of all, and get my shit together on the South African side, I can have Dwayne, I can have Russell in my movie, I can have Ruben. That's already, for me, the movie has traveled way out of South Africa, right? And then all the streaming platforms right now are like killing each other over content. I mean,
so all right. So
content is key, man.
For the creators now,
content is king right now.
So obviously, you know, we're having this conversation publicly. What do we need to do? If you had to say, all right, Ruben, this is what I need. This is what needs to be done to make this happen. Like what's that first step? To create the content, for us to sit down and brainstorm an idea and write it, and like would it be the same normal steps, or because I'm trying to get some shit done.
No, you know the rand
carry bags.
You know the rand to the dollar. You know the rand went 20 to the dollar during this COVID shit.
No, I did not know.
The dollar went to 19 rand. The US dollar went 19 to the the South African rands went 19 rands to the US dollar.
What was it?
I'm answering your question, right?
Yeah.
So
explain to them what it was before, so they can get the context of it.
It's when we made Blitz Patrol, it was 10 rand. Then it was 15 rand 2-3 years ago. The economy is seeing flames. It's all shit here. Then coronavirus happened. Then the shit was looking at 20 rand to the top.
But that's everywhere, though. That's literally everywhere.
Right? Yeah, but the rand versus the dollar means what it means for you and I, right?
Yeah.
It means, remember, we've got all these tax incentives in South Africa for producing and making movies in South Africa. So if you guys have $1 million, I'm making an example, right?
Clearly.
If I have $1 million or there's $1 million, I qualify for a South African tax rebate of 50% for being a black filmmaker or producer. So technically, if we have $1 million, we can make a $2 million movie.
Gotcha.
Or we can make $1 million movie and we'll get back $500,000 from the South African Department of Trade and Industry for tax rebate. Right?
Rebate,
yeah. But you must keep in mind, $1 million is 19 million rands. It's twice the budget for Blitz Patrol. And 3 times the budget of the movies that I just directed last year in South Africa. So here's what we need to do.
Okay, break it down, brother.
Right.
You're recording it, right?
Whether it's $1 million movie or $500,000 movie budget, in the budget there has to be. You guys are down here for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. In between there's every weekend there's a Blacks Only in Joburg. The next weekend there's a Blacks Only in Cape Town. The next weekend there's a Blacks Only in Durban. Monday, Tuesday to Thursday, we are on set. We putting in 12, 14-hour days. We shoot the shit. Friday, we get on the road. We get on the plane. We get in the car. We do like 2,000, 4,000, 5,000 people on the weekend.
That's a dope shit.
Monday, we go back. We finish shooting the shit.
Add 7.
It's the only way it's going to happen. It's the only way it's going to happen. So we need to literally find or somehow finance. You got to be away from home for 3 weeks. You got to fly to South Africa. You know, your expenses must be taken care of over there. My expenses here must be taken care of, so that when we say for this month, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that shit can be cut and paste, man. You can get any comedian from anywhere in the world. We know too many talented people around us.
And for the people, that's watching that don't know, when David is saying on the weekends we can do shows with 3 or 4,000 people, these are the type of shows that David does in South Africa.
Come on, man.
Just so you know, you get an idea of that we're just not talking.
Dude, that's crazy.
Like 10,000 people that I had the opportunity, the blessing to perform in front of. So that's what we're saying. But hey, man, I'm down, man. I'm just ready to work. I just think the world needs entertainment. We're all going through this COVID together globally.
Yeah,
that's one reason why I wanted to have you on here. I wanted to have Jean-Paul on here and wanted to have Gerard on here, just so people can get a larger perspective of what's going on around in the world. Because a lot of times we think that we're
only going through the thing by yourself. Yeah.
You think you're alone. Yeah.
You think you're alone. So when we're in this position right now, I just think we can use our time wisely. And then with the thing that's dope about collaboration, if I wake up tomorrow morning and I'm depressed, Jean-Paul might be in a good mood. He calls me, he uplifts me. I'm like, okay, let's get to work. David's not having a good day. Like, we all lift each other up by working together and creating something for the world. And having been to South Africa, I think 4 or 5 times, I just always have felt like, because especially the Black people in South Africa, that's really what I can speak of, is they're very familiar with America, with the culture.
Yeah, I mean, with most parts of the world, because our media and our news and TV shows.
Yeah, so I just think some type of organic, non-hacky story idea would be dope. You know, instead of somebody trying to come, American coming to South Africa trying to play South Africa, you know, just have a fish out of water story like me and talked. I won't go into the depths of that.
Yeah, I was about to say, let's do this offline.
Yeah, we'll get into the deeper shit offline. But
my head, when we start this, it's hard. I'm already about to start. What if we?
Yeah, let me tell you about Gerard.
Ruben, do these guys know Russell first became famous in South Africa? Before,
John Paul knows that, and for you guys. Russell Peters,
parts of the world.
Yeah, Russell Peters, before he was even famous in Canada, where he's from, he broke in Durban, South Africa. That's where he broke.
I did a month with Russell in Durban years ago. This how long ago it was is I still had braces. That's how long ago it was.
Wow.
It's about 16, 17.
Yeah, about that. And so we stayed, what's it called? The Royal Hotel?
The Royal Hotel is next to the Playhouse. The Playhouse Theater.
That's exactly where we played. We played the Playhouse.
Downstairs from the Royal.
And it was absolutely phenomenal. All I ever wanted to do was just hang out and see the people. Like you hear so much about South Africa through other, like the news and all that, but it's nothing like that, man. It is. I've been dying to go back to South Africa. The energy, the just everything about it, I loved, man. I loved everything about it.
Once we make a few $1 million off of the production we do, I want to get a place in South Africa. It would be great. Look how much I love it out there.
We have to get one in Durban, right? Because there's no winter in Durban.
Really?
So it's like
KwaZulu Natal?
Like LA.
Hey David, somebody put
and
that.
It's like a 1 hour flight from Joburg or like a 6 hour.
Half hour. What'd you say, Gerard?
When David's son asked the question about snowing in April, I read real quick on a comment. Somebody said, "Hey, it's like Durban, bruh." He said Durban, right?
Yes.
And like I was saying, yes, Cali, it never really rains. You know, we don't have it.
Man,
funny that you bring that up. Yeah, it's like.
But I got to be honest though, I love Cape Town though, man.
Cape Town's my understanding. I've never been to Cape Town, but all I ever hear about Cape Town is it is like just the backdrop of the Table Mountains and just the people, the energy. It's insanely cosmopolitan. It's just pretty dope, man. So
I've never been.
I've been dying to go, man.
I have never been. I want to touch all of it, but you can schedule my accommodations in the city where there's no winter. I want to get out there. We're gonna be everywhere. But I
went on a safari. I physically saw a dung beetle rolling dung across the street.
About it.
You got it, Deez. Deez says all he wants to do is barbecue at my place in South Africa.
Damn right.
That's called a braai. That's called a braai in South Africa.
A braai. Yeah, bro.
But we're going to the townships to a place called Chisanyama, which is basically barbecue the meat. You know, that's what.
But you know, I remember the first time I went to Joburg, everybody was like, "Hey man, be careful, take off your jewelry, take off this and that." And then I talked to David, and David was like, "Where do you plan on going?" It's just like if somebody come to LA, like, "Hey man, take your chains off, do this, do that." Like, dude, what part of LA do you plan on going?
It was crazy, man.
The whole fucking city.
They were saying all of that. They're like, they got cars with flamethrowers that shoot out the side and bulletproof glass, and I'm like, yeah.
It's just so for you guys who know, one thing that I was doing with David and some of the other South African comedians, I just make fun of American ignorance a lot when I'm there.
That's easy.
So if we're driving down the street and I see a McDonald's, I go, "Yeah, I got McDonald's in Africa." I see a car go by JP, and like, "Y'all got cars in Africa?" the media a lot of times, and when I was having conversations in South Africa, what they don't realize, the media a lot of times in America paints Africa as a whole. Yeah. And everybody walking around in loincloth, and you know, with spears, and
it was beautiful.
Tigers,
it was absolutely beautiful. I loved everything about it.
it's so ignorant, and it's not saying that there aren't places like that in Africa, but for the most part, Africa is a pretty developed country, especially
very man.
So
yeah, we landed in Joburg. That's what surprised me the most because we got to get out and then walk around, and it was just like buildings. I was like,
the first
time. So the reason most of all these films are shot in South Africa, I mean, I don't know how many films that you guys are watching in Hollywood were all shot in South Africa. So Cape Town doubles up a lot as San Francisco.
Really?
Joburg has played New York, Lagos a lot. And Durban also because it's got the beach and the Miami vibe to it.
Oh, the Strip.
So, yeah. So
the strippers. You gotta go to Durban. No wintertime. That's where we got to.
So you've actually seen a lot of South Africa in a lot of films. Yeah. But it might have been playing other towns or other cities or countries and stuff. So, but the weather is amazing all around. But I mean, as soon as you leave South Africa, Botswana is like an hour flight where they shot The Number One Detective.
Yeah,
it's hot there, bro. There isn't much winter. As soon as you go to Zambia, DRC, then there's no winter at all. There's the entire countries. There's just no getting cold, you know. The biggest worry is like rainfall.
So the thing that really jumped out to me, and I think as Black people who live in North America, like me and Jean Paul being in Canada and Gerard, you know, being in LA like myself, and I explained this in one comedy show. I remember doing an interview in Joburg, and then at one of the shows I addressed it is, I think because how prevalent Black people are in entertainment and in sports, it gives this illusion around the world, especially when Barack Obama was president, it gives this illusion around the world like Black people are the majority in America. Like everywhere you go,
specific places, man,
you're going to see Black people. And I remember telling the person that was interviewing me when I was in Joburg that you can get on an airplane in the United States of America and be the only Black person on a flight. And they were just like, what?
So I took pictures.
It's not like South Africa, because one thing that jumped out to me about South Africa, which I loved, is there's Black people everywhere.
Yeah, it's Africa.
So Ruben,
I know, but when you see it, Mr. Paul, when you're not used to it and you see it, it fucks you up.
So it's kind of like Atlanta.
So Ruben, when I was that time I was at Russell's house in 2017, and I had to go back home because a friend of mine died.
Yes.
I had flown Air France, right? And I had obviously planned to fly back like 2-3 months later. Mm-hmm. But now I had to urgently change my ticket, and I could only fly back KLM, LA to Salt Lake City to Amsterdam.
Damn.
So I have a picture, right, of when I was going into my plane seat, of like white people turning around and looking at me like this, because I was the only Black on the other side.
Yeah,
from LA to Salt Lake City, from Salt Lake City to Amsterdam.
But so you would never have that experience in South Africa. Like, you're not going to fly from Joburg to Cape Town and be the only Black person on a flight.
No. You're saying there's no equivalent in Africa to America's Utah.
But I was actually surprised when we got out of the plane in Joburg. I didn't see that many white people, and when I saw one, I was like, I couldn't believe it, and I had to take a picture, and he refused to take a picture with me. Hey, I was a white dude in Africa.
Yeah, and he was my Durban experience when I went with Russell, and I'll never forget this. We were landing in Durban, and we're in first class, of course. Russell turns and looks at me and he goes,
shout out to Russell.
Shout out to Russell Peters.
Shout out first class.
Yeah, we get out of first class, and before we walk to the jetway, Russell stops and he looks at me and goes, hey, man, when we get off this plane, you're going to think you're in India and not in Africa.
Oh, in Durban? In Durban? Yeah.
And we got up, and it was Indians everywhere in Durban.
When I went to Durban, I still had hair. As you see, I don't have hair. I still have hair. My hair, when it grows long, is straight because, you know, the Indian mix in Trinidad. Dude, I was a rock star in Durban, man. It was VIP at every club. Every Indian in Durban wanted to hang out with me. And they're like, oh, you're from Trinidad and Tobago, because they're big on cricket. And the big dude they know in cricket, I don't know if you know anything about cricket, is Brian Lara. And Brian Lara has like records, you know, the most, you know, at bats and the most runs and stuff like that. So people were like, yo, you're the closest we're going to get to Brian Lara. They were hanging out, VIP. It was insane, man. It was crazy. I loved it.
So David, when you came to America, were you shocked by the amount of white people you saw when you came here?
So let me tell you what
I love the story like that. Let me tell you.
You know, so here's the thing, but this is part of my routine, right? So in Richfield, Connecticut, where we were staying with friends, right? There was a night we went out. The population in Richfield is about 1,500 people. Basically, Richfield is where they shoot Billions. That TV show Billions?
Billions? Yeah. On Showtime. The Showtime show Billions.
Yeah. So it's like nice $2 million houses, you know. That's like normal. Big yards, small street, one police officer. It's like that type of town.
One bullet.
You can walk. You can walk.
One bullet?
Yeah, he's got one bullet. Yeah, you know, there's no crime. He just got one bullet.
One library, one theater.
Hey, and the one bullet is for a warning shot.
Yeah, exactly. You got to share. Yeah, you get the bullet from 3 to 6.
So, and this actually happened to me, and I do it in my routine. So the entire time before my wife and kids came back, I was the only black person in the entire
Wow.
in town, because we went out for dinner or whatever. So my friend who used to work at General Motors, who's back home in America, right? Who was living in Connecticut, he married a African woman or South African black woman, right? And they have 2 kids who are obviously mixed, who are considered colored. Because they're mixed. Yeah, because they're half black, half white. And his wife was in South Africa when I arrived. So I do a whole thing. You know, when I first went, we went out for dinner, and I was the only black person in town. And then we went out with the 2 kids, and then there were 2 full black people in town.
Mathematically speaking.
2 full black people.
Mathematically speaking. Right.
And then the wife arrived, right? And now there were 3 full black people in Connecticut. And then my wife and kids arrived, but my wife is half Greek, half Zulu. I'm South Sudan. That's when I'm like, I don't know what the fuck my kids are. So now the whole town, there was just confusion. No one knew how many black people were.
See, but you had to come to America and get that experience, man. And that's one thing. Like, Atlanta is a very black city, and obviously in LA, LA is
I've never been
pretty segregated. You know,
I have to go to Atlanta.
Oh, you love Atlanta. You love Atlanta, but LA is pretty segregated. What'd you say, Gerard?
The political landscape is changing in Atlanta. Like, for the first time in 75 years, the infrastructure is starting to turn other than African American, other than black.
Gotcha.
About the mayor, you know, the city government, the thing that kept it a chocolate city the whole time really just broke down in these last election cycles.
Gotcha.
So, same thing happening everywhere.
But when people go, man, you from LA, and you know, it's you know, people don't realize LA does have diversity, but we're still kind of segregated. Like, you know where all the black people live, like, you know, the pockets of where everything is. So, you know, especially being in Hollywood and working in Hollywood, you know, when I first started doing comedy and I was working at the Comedy Act Theater off of Crenshaw and 43rd, you know, that Leimert Park area is a black area. So, of course, you're always around black people, but that's just a small part of Los Angeles. So if you're going to do shows in Hollywood, you know, you're around everybody there. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
to be at a comedy club and there not be a lot of blacks at a show, if it's not a black show, is a very common thing. Like Dee said, LA is very segregated. I believe, Dee, don't you live in Compton? I think, because I grew up in Del Amo. I grew up in Carson, and off of 190th in Wilmington, and where I grew up was a black area. Like there are no white people, you know, in my neighborhood growing up that I can think of. Might have been one or two, maybe, but by and large, our interactions in Hollywood are very white.
Very.
You know, so to go to South Africa and then to get on the plane and to the people, you know, like jobs that, quote unquote, not to sound stereotypical, but jobs, let's say, that Mexicans would do out here, blacks were doing all the jobs, you know, in South Africa.
But that's the beauty of going, like when I go home to Trinidad, that's you know, and even in growing up, it never occurred to me, because you go into the drugstore, the pharmacist is black, the police officers are black, the post office is black, the bakers are black, you know what I mean? So it wasn't until you get to Canada, and thank God my parents moved to Toronto, where at least, you know, people seem to get together from the different cultures. But, you know, it wasn't until we came to outside of where we came from that we experienced all that kind of crazy shit, man.
Yeah. I saw, I recently saw like a YouTube thing with Pierre, you know, Pierre Edwards, right?
Yeah.
Pierre. Yeah. And so Pierre was one of the first guys who came out with Dwayne when I was doing Comedy Blackout, right? Mm-hmm. And
this is before Blacks Only, correct?
Yeah, this was before Blacks Only. And Capone has been out for Blacks Only as well. But I was watching this YouTube interview with Pierre, and he says he got shot in the ass in Compton.
Wasn't it a Jamaican dude outside the McDonald's?
The Jamaicans shot him outside.
Yeah,
I think it was Comedy Hype YouTube.
Let me say this, you know, being LA. Compton.
So the reason I'm asking is because Paul D just says he still lives in Compton and he loves Compton. So I'm wondering, isn't that where Pierre got shot in the ass?
But here's the thing.
No, Pierre got shot in DC, didn't he?
Oh, yes, it was DC. He grew up in DC.
He's from DC, which is too, David, Chocolate City.
Yeah. Because in my head, I was wondering if Compton is what we think it is from music videos and TV shows. You know?
Yeah, where Smokey lives, where Paul Deese lives, you know, it's like I live right here in Inglewood, very similar, where you have the element. He lives in a family-oriented space, but again, if you go down the way, you know, it's that. But where he lives is a very wonderful, cool, loving neighborhood.
It kind of gets back to my point about when they were telling me to be careful in Joburg. Yeah, there's places in Compton you can get shot in the ass, but there's places in Carson that you can get shot in the ass. There's places in Cerritos you can get shot in the ass.
On Hollywood Boulevard.
There's places in Hollywood you can get shot in the ass, like
Ventura Boulevard.
Yeah, it just depends.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Mulholland Drive.
Look, I mean, so let me tell you then some of the things, right, in South Africa, right? So, I mean, I think the statistics now are saying we're the murder capital of the world, or we're number 2 or some stupid, like 50 murders a day or something. But it's a lot of robberies and violent murders, right?
Right.
So, because of the lockdown, alcohol is banned in South Africa for the past 3 weeks now, right? Mm-hmm. Bro, when I say to you crime is like zero, the crime that's being reported, people are blowing up liquor outlets.
Did you say blowing up?
Blowing up entrances into liquor outlets, as in like with explosives.
What?
Damn.
You said liquor outlets?
Those are the crimes that are being reported.
That's why I had to ask.
From 50 murders a day, rapes, this, that, armed robberies, we're down to 0, right?
Wow.
For the past 3 weeks since lockdown and stay home and all that. The previous bodily harm, but a lot of husbands or men beating women.
That's going up. Domestic violence is shot up everywhere. Everywhere.
Oh, you can believe it.
It's bad. It's bad. Like 50, 60,000 cases reported.
Yeah.
And so because we were talking about the whole crime thing and you can get robbed everywhere, in South Africa it was bad. It was really getting bad, right? And what happens also, what they call cash in transit heists in South Africa, which are basically the cars or the trucks that move cash.
Armored vehicles.
Armored vehicles, right? 2019, up until July, there was one every day in South Africa. Or minimum one every day. Every single day, somewhere, there was one cash van going down. And like the guys would come, blow it up, take some money, run away or jet, and then the community would run and pick up whatever money is left. There's like videos on social media, on WhatsApp, but all the time. Like
what's happening in downtown LA? The 7-Eleven at 7th and Grand, which is really nice condos, great restaurants and all that. But that's a tough corner. A lot of ne'er-do-welling going on.
Ne'er-do-welling.
Yes.
Somebody had a question. Read it on the screen. Can you read that?
Ruben Paul looks like Mosquito. Mosquito is one of the biggest DJs, producers. Probably Black Coffee gives him credit for some or parts of his career. Okay. DJ Black Coffee. And like he's literally almost like me in music. But they started a whole genre called Kwaito music in South Africa.
Is he handsome?
No.
Let me
find the scooter. He's a great guy. He's a cool ass guy.
That's good. Well, Dave, man,
I'll find a scooter for you. He's a legend, man.
Dave, we've kept you on for
3 hours, bro. 3 hours, bro.
And I love and appreciate you, man. And I can't wait till we can all sit down in one room together. But that's not going to stop us from.
He's like he's almost like Dr. Dre.
Oh, for real?
Okay, I'll look him up. I can't really see him because there's a glare.
Not necessarily rap music, but like a different South African genre of music. Just Google DJ Mosquito.
I will. But
I look retarded. What I tried doing now is I look completely retarded. I was saying, Rube, are you recording the interview?
Yeah, it's recorded. I'll leave it on my Facebook page if people want to go back.
This is dope.
Yeah.
Get it. But I will say I can't wait till we're all in a room together again, or for the first time with Gerard. And but we should talk about creating something together. We can use this privately. We can use this StreamYard. Yeah. We can do Zoom. We can do whatever. But we should do something, man. Why not?
So can I interrupt before you guys close off?
Yeah.
Can I extend an invitation? So in this quarantine state, we decided to do a show called The Minority Report. The way I describe it, we do it every Sunday. We've only done 2. The next one will be this Sunday. I say it's like what I'm trying to make it is like The Daily Show and The View had sex and had a baby, but it's all comedians of ethnic backgrounds, no whites. That's how it goes. Sorry, white people. You guys have enough outlets. but it's like Asians, brown, female, blacks, Jamaicans, American, So I would like to extend an invitation at some point to have you guys be a special guest on the show. It's like an hour show. We have segments. We have a hot topic. You got up to 3 minutes off the top. Say whatever it is you want. We talk a bunch of bullshit and then answer some questions from the people that join in. So I want to extend that invitation to the Minority Report over the next little while. So
what platform?
Zoom. Just because we don't know any better right now. So
no. We're finding jump in. I just want to make sure you say that. So that people listening can follow.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So
I'll make sure I don't know if you have David's information or Gerard's information, but I'll make sure that I connect all you guys. And I have a couple of things that are through the pipeline on this virtual world that we're in. I pitched a couple of shows that people like, so
nice.
We're going to be doing some stuff, but I want to continue doing stuff like this. You know, getting comedians on, and just talking about life, their careers, what we can do, how we can move forward, and I really enjoyed this, man. David, I love you. What time is it in South Africa right now?
Like 1 something.
1 a.m. man.
Yeah.
1 a.m.
Day
22. Day 22 of 35.
Yeah.
In
hey,
lockdown.
But David, is it really 1 a.m.? No one is paying attention to time anymore.
No, nobody. My body clock checked out. The other day I don't know
if you guys have struggled with this, man, but like I try to stay on some type of routine, but sometimes, man, if I smoke a little bit too much weed or something, I'll fall asleep like around 5.
Ruben, imagine I still never smoked weed.
I haven't for the quarantine. I haven't for the quarantine yet, just because I'm scared of the coughing.
No, David,
I'm thinking of starting to drink because of this lockdown.
You drank with me before. You drank with
me. We had champagne after Black Soul.
We had champagne. Said they stopped selling liquor. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they stopped.
They stopped selling liquor in South Africa for the period, and now they've extended by another 2 weeks.
Yeah,
so there's
I don't know Paul
black
Dean,
market,
but I want to shout out
black
Paul
market
Dean
prices for alcohol now. People are smuggling alcohol. Cops are selling alcohol.
But let's all connect again soon, guys. You know, I really, really, really enjoyed this. Jean Paul, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you asking me to come jump on.
And David,
guys,
I appreciate you, brother.
Rube, let me say thank you so much, brother. This was like a million times more exciting and so fucking amazing.
Better feel good for the heart, man.
And thanks. What a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Gilroy.
Hey, man.
Guillory.
Check out Barris Hammond, man.
And nice to see you again, John. And all the South Africans and everybody texting you and all the American guys that are sending messages. I see them, you know.
Yeah.
Yao has been there the whole night. Yao Pepra, we went to UCT together.
What's up, Yao?
Big shout out, Yao.
My friend Sam Mapitela, we play golf together. The one who said I need to buy data, you know.
Yeah.
Like, thanks so much, everybody watching.
Dave. They're killing you. But hey, man, thank you guys for tuning in. This was Live with Ruben Paul with David Cow, Gerard Guillory, Jean Paul, and shout out Dwayne Perkins, who was in earlier.
Oh, for real? Yeah.
Were you, Ruben? Were you going out on YouTube as well?
You said what?
Were you going out on YouTube as well?
Yeah, we can put this out on YouTube. Also, we'll put it out on YouTube.
Let's do that, dog. Let's do that.
All right, I'll put it on. I'll call my tech guy and have him put it on YouTube also, man.
Ooh, Ruben got a tech guy.
Hey, you got it. Hey, shout out to Sneaky G from Hong Kong. Sneaky G from Hong Kong. It's all love, man. All right, y'all. That's Ruben Paul Live with Gerard Guillory, Jean Paul, David Cow, Dwayne. We'll holler at you next time. We out.
Peace and love.
Hey, guys.